Good evening. I'd like to call the Parks and Recreation Committee meeting for Tuesday, December 16th to order. I'd like to begin with the land acknowledgement. As we gather today, I would respectfully acknowledge on behalf of Council and the community that the City of Pembroke resides on the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We thank the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. It is with this statement that we honor and respect the Algonquins on whose land we reside. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest, general nature thereof? Seeing none, could I have a motion to approve the meeting agenda? Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Ian Keel. All in favor? Okay, the Parks and Recreation Committee meeting minutes for November 18th were circulated. Are there any errors or omissions? All in favor? Approved. Any business arising from those minutes? No? Pardon? Oh, sorry. Minutes moved by Councillor Jack. No, I'm new at this. Seconded by Deputy Mayor. All in favor? Thank you. And no business arising. I see none. Presentations and delegations.
Madam Chair, if I may. The City of Pembroke is fortunate to have many caring, dedicated and faithful council members over the years who are passionate about Pembroke and show that passion by choosing to run and serve on municipal council. Councillor Lafreniere is one of those dedicated council members that have served her community that she obviously loves so much. Councillor Lafreniere has served as a council member for the residents and businesses of Pembroke for an awesome 25 years as of last month. She has served on a variety of different committees, boards, in addition to council, always bringing great insight, knowledge, and thought to the difficult decisions at hand. She has done so drawing on her variety of backgrounds from her personal life, which has served her well. Her unique life experiences has assisted her in bringing her own unique perspective to discussions at hand, which I and all of council value greatly. I must confess that it was not until recently that Councillor Keel brought to my attention that Councillor Lafreniere was going to be celebrating a milestone regarding her commitment to the residents, and that's when plans began to take shape to acknowledge your commitment to the residents and businesses of the City of Pembroke. And due to some scheduling difficulties, we were unable to celebrate in November, and we were unable to celebrate on the actual month to honor the 25-year commitment to the residents. But here we are this evening, and we have you here. So, Councillor Lafreniere, you exemplify what it means to be a leader in your community and residents, and the residents will never fully understand how you tirelessly advocate for them in many different ways. It's not all what's on the camera. There's often things behind the scenes, difficult discussions being had, and you always have the best interests at heart of all the residents. And for that, we are eternally grateful. And it's not just myself, it's not just council. Those sentiments are shared by the federal government. So on behalf of the federal government, I do have a scroll to present to you, if I can get the thing to open. Councillor Lafreniere, I extend to you my warmest gratitude and appreciation for 25 years of outstanding service to the City of Pembroke. November 18, 2025. Today, you celebrate 25 incredible years of your service as councillor for the City of Pembroke. Your dedication, compassion, and love for this community have towards so many lives. You've given your time, your energy, and heart to making Pembroke a better place for everyone, and it truly shows in all that you do. Thank you for your unwavering commitment and for always leading with kindness and integrity. Here's to you, Patricia, and to 25 years of making a difference. Signed by the MP, our MP on behalf of the federal government.
Thank you.
Similarly, the province shares all of our sentiments. This is a certificate of congratulations presented to Councillor Patricia Lafreniere in honor of 25 years of Pembroke City Council. in recognition of 25 years of dedicated service to the residents of the City of Pembroke. Your commitment, leadership, and unwavering dedication have made a lasting impact on our community. Thank you for many contributions and 25 years of outstanding service. Signed by our MPP, Billy Deneau.
Thank you.
And last but not least, on behalf of myself and all of City Council, we take pride in presenting this scroll to yourself, Councillor Lafreniere. Congratulations on 25 years of dedication and selfless service to the residents of the City of Pembroke, signed by myself and the CAO on behalf of all of your council. This is what you mean to us.
Thank you.
Out of order.
Well,
Before turning it over to everybody, there was one time, so when you serve together on a member of council, in a way you're like family, and on one of these occasions, we were having a conversation about your commitment to the City of Pembroke, what it means to be part of the City of Pembroke, and to have something to recognize that commitment to the City of Pembroke. And I don't know if you remember this or not, but a shirt on behalf of the City of Pembroke.
Yeah.
Not that people don't need this to identify who you are. Everyone knows who you are, but nonetheless, a shirt to identify just based
Yeah.
upon that conversation
Yeah.
that we had.
I do remember. Thank you.
Well,
Oh, my goodness. Well, yeah,
and
go
I
ahead.
believe other members of council might,
Okay.
if you will, Madam Chair,
Yeah.
I believe other members of council have a few things that they wish to say and express to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is my second term in council, and when I first joined, Pat was a mentor to me, and I was vice chair of Parks and Rec, and you could tell the experience that Pat had. And one thing about Councillor Lafreniere, she always fights for the little person, the little guy, little girl, little woman, little people in the community, the disadvantaged, and I really admire her for that. She brings reason to her decisions, and as a council, she's always been professional. And she's worked hard for the community and other organizations, Curling Club, United Way. And I think she's a councillor's councillor, you know, that type of thing. 25 years. That's a lot of elections and a lot of slugging and a lot of representation. And in order to be on council for 25 years, you really got to like what you do. And she really loves her community. So congratulations and thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Yeah.
So for 25 years, I don't know how you did it, because at year 3, I can't imagine 22 more. My first memory of Councillor Lafreniere is actually at the PMC, and you were elected in 2000. It had to be somewhere between 2000 and 2003, because I was in high school, and you and Councillor O'Neill held a meeting at the PMC about the skateboard park. And it was a meeting with youth in the City of Pembroke to hear basically our plea for a skateboard park. And it took a lot of hard work, and I know you spent a lot of time on it, and eventually we had a interim skateboard park, and now we have a full skateboard park. So that's my first memory of you. My next memory is then sitting here at the table with you, and it was during an orientation session. And I remember you making the comment that Parks and Rec is a soft service, and when it comes to budget and it comes to decisions, sometimes Parks and Rec takes a back seat. And I thought, well, that sounds like a challenge. And starting with that first budget, I think this council, with your leadership at Parks and Rec, really turned a corner on putting away for our Parks and Rec facilities and investing in the future. And coincidentally, that sort of bookends my first memory and then the next one. Sitting around this table, I think at the beginning was interesting. Obviously, I was new and had lots of ideas and you were experienced and knew how reality actually works. And we did butt heads a couple times at the beginning. But over the past 3 years, I have found you to be nothing but professional, nothing but a mentor on how being a counselor should be. Our relationship has certainly improved greatly. What people might not know is that Councillor Lafreniere never stops working. When you see us on camera, that's but a small part of the job. And when you are at your lowest of lows, it's Councillor Lafreniere that texts you in the morning and asks if you're okay. And that's where our relationship has gotten over the last 3 years, and it's because of your integrity, it's because of your heart, and those are what you base a lot of your decisions on. And so to celebrate your 25th anniversary, I wanted to get you something special.
A pizza.
Not a pizza. So this is made by a local company here in the Ottawa Valley. And it's a
That's
map of the city of Pembroke. And on the back, it says Councillor Pat Lafreniere, Pembroke City Council. And the election that year was November 13th, 2000. And thank you for 25 years of exemplary service.
Jeez. Thank you so much, Ian.
And you can have the pizza box.
Thank you. I was looking forward to pizza. Thank you. Well, what can I say? You know, does anyone else? Oh, okay, I don't have to say anything.
I have to stand, Pat, to recognize your tremendous accomplishments. I've known you a long time, working at the television station. We go back, I don't know, 40 years. Mike Keller, there's Jim Cooper, Jerry Clifford, names that many people here may not know who have gone on to a better reward. And your dedication to the station at that time of putting Pembroke on the map through the production of many of the commercials you did. And again, conferring on news stories, etc. You can be congratulated for that. It's hard to believe that 25 years can go by so quickly. It's like a flash in the pan. But I know the residents of our community admire you, and they know the hard work that you've put into being on this council. And I totally agree with what has been said, that you have been a tremendous asset to our community. And I see you have members of your family here to support you. Perhaps you may want to introduce them in case we don't all know them. So thank you for your dedication and many more happy, healthy years.
Thank you. Troy.
Thanks, Patricia. I just wanted to echo the same sentiments in regards to your leadership. I've had the pleasure to serve with you as Vice Chair on Parks and Rec and also with the Renfrew County Health Committee. And you proved to be a very valuable asset in terms of ensuring that the best interests of our residents of the city of Pembroke are looked after. So I just wanted to congratulate you on 25 years. I think that's outstanding. Again, as Councillor Keel said, we're in our 3rd year, and I can't imagine doing 22 more years. It's just, but kudos to you, and again, thank you on behalf of the residents of the city of Pembroke and myself for all you do and your service. Thank you.
Thank you, Troy. So, I guess it's my turn. I'm overwhelmed. I'm sorry I almost royally messed everything up for you guys. I know this was going to happen a few times and it didn't. First of all, I want to go back to the year that I decided to run for council. That's a long time ago, and I had 3 young children. I'm going to get emotional, but I just want to say thank you to my family. Thanks to Chad, who really pushed me when I was like sitting there. I had filed my name to run. That's my oldest son, Chad, in the back, in the beige sweatshirt. And he pushed me to run, and I was sitting there overwhelmed. As you all know, when you run for an election, it's a big job, and I was going to do every door. And I'm sitting there one day, and he says, "Did you start campaigning yet?" I'm like, "No." "Well, you better go, you're not as well known as you think you are." And so he pushed me. So thank you, Chad, for pushing me. Amanda, you were just a small child 25 years ago. You would have been like 12 or 13. Am I giving away your age? That's okay. But her and her friends helped me, you know, door to door with my little pamphlet, homemade. And Dean, my other son, who does not live in Pembroke, he helped me. And I want to thank his friends and everybody. It was just an overwhelming, response I had from friends and family. So that's a long time ago. And I want to say that the job has changed a lot in 25 years. And I understand that after 3 years, you feel that 25 is a long time. But it really has changed, and the challenges have changed. And counselors have to step up now. It's a lot more than it used to be. It used to be roads, bridges, police, fire, water, sewer. Now it's much more. Now you have to be socially engaged and aware of all the issues in our community. So I commend all of you who will continue long after I'm gone from this table, but continue to do what you do because you do it so well. So again, I'm very proud to have served you for 25 years. I want to thank everyone in the community that supported me. And I want to say what Terry O'Neill said to me. God bless Terry. He said, Pat, he said one day, this was when I was at the top of the votes, right? Every year that you run, you're going to lose votes because you cannot please all the people. And you know what? We don't have to please all the people. Do what's in your heart and do what you know is best because you won't please all the people all the time. Again, thank you so much. I know we have an agenda to get to. Again, I want to introduce my family at the back. There's Cora in the green dress. And my daughter Amanda with Evie, little Everett on her knee. Yeah, I have. And in front of them is my son-in-law Brent Smith and his beautiful daughter Ada, my granddaughter. And beside them is my husband Dennis of almost 50 years. We'll celebrate 50 years married next year. Thanks for putting up with me, hon. And my oldest son beside him, Chad. And then beside him, Gemini, can you stand up? She's my eldest grandchild, Gemini. She's 10. So thanks for supporting me all the years. The good, the bad, the times I'm having a really hard time struggling to maintain some calm in our lives. So thank you, and I love you all. And again, thank you, fellow councillors, for recognizing this. And now we'll get back to the meeting. Thank you. Thank you. Could we have a little break while I say goodbye to my family? Can we have a little break? Okay. We're just going to take a little break. Did you guys want to stay for the whole council meeting and see what we do? Or we'll just take a short break while you leave. Okay? Yeah, okay. I'm just going to... Good evening. We'll continue with tonight's Parks and Recreation Committee meeting. Auditor Delegation 2024 audited financial statements, and we have our City Auditor Rod Sinclair with us tonight. So, do you want to introduce both of you?
Yeah, I was just about to say I've got one of my colleagues here, Kevin Mitchell. He's a senior manager with Baker Tilly, so he's going to be here as well, just in case you guys have any really tough questions that I don't know the answer to. So thanks for having us here this evening. So we thought we'd do it a little differently this year. So typically I would go through the 35-page audit report in detail, but I thought just given the time limitations might be better served to kind of put it in a PowerPoint presentation. So we'll still hit on the main statements, but and then we also kind of thought we'd do a deeper dive into some of the financial indicators and benchmarking percentages that province uses to evaluate municipalities and look at kind of where the city's trending and also compare you to some other comparable municipalities, similar sized municipalities. So just to go through a few highlights of the audit. So we're prepared to issue an unmodified audit opinion for the 2024 fiscal year pending council's approval. There was a new revenue recognition standard, PS 3400, that was applied in the statement. So this standard gives guidance on revenues that don't have other applicable standards. So like, for example, there's a tax standard, there's a government transfer standard, but there was never a real standard for like user fees. So that's something that's changed this year. There's a new group audit standard, CAS 600. So because the city statements are a consolidated statement, so we incorporate numbers from the hydro utilities, the Waste Recovery Board, and the airport. So we've always had to do some work on relying on the other auditors' work, but under this new standard, it's a lot more rigorous. We do have to a lot more communication with the other auditors. We have to review their working papers, give them instructions. So it's so that was new this year. So we set our overall materiality at 850,000. Using expenditures as a basis. So materialities defined as level of misstatement that would influence the economic decisions of the users of the financial statements. We had no disagreements with management or indicators of fraud. As per usual, we issue a management letter outlining internal control issues that we identified throughout the audit. And also there's, again, per usual, the uncorrected misstatements that were identified deemed immaterial. So that's included in the final reporting letter as well. So next slide. So we'll start with your consolidated statement of financial position. So as I mentioned, these statements are consolidated, so they include all operating capital activities. They include the library, PBIA, water and sewer, as well as your proportionate share of the Waste Management Board, airport, and then on a modified equity basis, the hydro utilities. So this, your statement of financial position, it's kind of a snapshot in time of where you stood at the end of 2024. So you had accumulated surplus of 182.7 million. So an increase of 10.6 million from the previous year. So that's good. That's comprised of financial assets of 58.8 million. So included in that is cash, 24.6 million. So an increase of 3.2 million from the previous year. Investments, 8.9 million, a decrease of 2.6 million from the previous year. Taxes receivable, 2 million. Water and sewer receivables, 776,000. Accounts receivable, 7.8 million. So all receivables were up 3.5 million over the previous year. It also includes the investment in the municipal electrical utilities of 14.4 million. Subtracted from that are the financial liabilities at year end. So there's 11.2 million of accounts payable and accrued liabilities. 6.2 million is a new construction loan. Deferred revenue, 821,000. Deferred revenue obligatory, 801,000. So overall decrease in deferred revenue of 500,000. 11.5 million of long-term liabilities, 1.9 million of employee post-employment liabilities, and 2.2 million of asset retirement obligations. So total financial liabilities, 34.7 million. So subtracting that from the financial assets, you get net financial assets of a little over 24 million. It's pretty close, 100,000 less than the previous year. Then you add in tangible capital assets and prepaid expenses, your non-financial assets. So tangible capital assets was 158 million, increase of 10.6 million over the previous year. Now that's at net book value, so cost less accumulated amortization, and then 650,000 of prepaid expenses. So again, that gets us to your overall accumulated surplus figure of 182.7 million. Next slide. Kind of deeper dive into some of the financial assets. So cash, started the year at 21.4 million of cash. You generated cash from operating activities of 14.1 million, 4.9 million from financing activities, and then 2.2 million positive cash flow from investing activities. You used 18 million in capital activities during the year, so overall your cash position went up by 3.2 million. Next slide, under receivables, so your taxes receivable year over year went up by 400,000, and then other accounts receivable went up by 3.2 million. Here the bigger variances, so your ISIP grant receivables 2.2 million higher, 500,000 higher cost recovery from the Renfrew County District School Board, 100,000 more from Canada Urban Institute grant receivable for the PBIA, and outstanding rent from the OPP of 200,000. Under investments, that should say May 2024, I just noticed that today, but yeah, there was a $3 million GIC that matured last year. That's offset by interest earned of 400,000. Next slide. So under the financial liabilities, so as mentioned, there was that new short-term construction loan that was obtained during the year. So the maximum principal was 9.5 million, and received to date was 6.2 million, and this was for the town line lift station electrical upgrades and the forest main twinning through the Ontario Infrastructure and Lands Corporation. And then under deferred revenue, utilized 700,000 of gas tax reserves, offset by OSIF deferred revenue increase of 200,000. Oops. So next slide, we got tangible capital assets. So big increase here. So your opening net book value is 147.4 million. There was 19.3 million of additions during the year. 7.3 million of current year amortization, and then some other adjustments for assets under construction and disposals, to get to the ending net book value of 158.0 million. Next slide breaks down the tangible capital assets. So the big ticket items there, as you can see, at Bennett Street Phase 1 and Phase 2, Moffat Street, Storm Sewer, PCC Digester, Isabella Street Catchment Area Phase 1, Operations Garage, and then various other equipment and capital additions, so totaling 19.3 million. So the next page is your consolidated statement of operations, sorry. So for the year, so this shows all your revenues and expenses for the year. So as the year, you're showing a net annual surplus of 10.59 million. So that's just up from 9.7 million the previous year. So this is comprised of revenues of 54 million, less expenses of 43.4 million. So on the revenue side, so you had little over 27 million in taxation and payments in lieu. So that's a $2.1 million increase from the previous year. User charges 15.5 million, so up 800,000 from the previous year. Government transfers 6.5 million, so a $200,000 decrease from the previous year. Investment income 1.8 million. And we've got deferred revenue earned 1.9 million. Investment in the municipal electric utilities 429,000, so a $250,000 increase from the previous year. And then other items. So totaling all the other items, yeah, $300,000 increase there. So overall, your revenue increased from the previous year by 3.25 million. On the expense side, so here on this statement, they're showed by function. So 3.5 million from general government, so up 400,000 from the previous year. Protection to persons and property, 9.4 million, so a $400,000 increase over the previous year. Transportation services, 6.9 million. Environmental services, 12.4 million, so $600,000 increase there. Health services, 2.3 million, so $500,000 increase there. Social family services, 2.5 million. Recreation and cultural services, 5.3 million. And planning and development, 967,000. So those other items all combined for another $450,000 increase. So overall, your expenditures increased by 2.35 million. Now, it should be noted that so capital purchases aren't included in expenses under PSAB, rather just the amortization is. So it seems like a big number, but you also bought a lot of capital assets this past year. So the next slide shows, so this breaks down your operating expenditures by object. So the left-hand side's 2024 of the graph, right, 2023. So you can see your biggest expense item by object is salaries, wages, and employee benefits of over 14 million this year. Your next highest expenditure is contracted services, a little under 8 million. Then materials under 8 million. You had over 7 million of amortization expense this year. About 5 million of external transfers, and then interest on long-term liabilities, and then rent expenses and accretion are the two lower amounts in there. So the next schedule. So again, kind of going through some of the main schedules in the financial statements. So this is your schedule of accumulated surplus. So that 182.8 million surplus that we showed on the statement of financial position. So this kind of breaks it down in more detail. So as you can see, you had 7.45 million of reserve funds. So that's, and then you can see the various buckets there. So that's a $3.4 million decrease from the previous year. Then you've got your reserves, so totaling 15.5 million. So an increase of 1.2 million over the previous year. Again, you see the various categories there. So total reserves and reserve funds totaling 22.95 million. Then we add in the other various surpluses. So the biggest one being invested in tangible capital assets, so 148.5 million. You had $1 million in your general reserve fund. Deficit in the landfill operations board, 58,000. 14.4 million equity in the municipal electric utilities, and then unfunded liabilities come off that, 1.9 million for employee benefits, post-employment liabilities, and asset retirement obligations of 2.2 million. So total surpluses of 159.8 million gets us to that ending surplus of 182.8 million. So next, we used to always kind of talk about these kind of in passing, but we thought we'd do a little deeper dive this year on the financial indicators and benchmarking ratios. So these are the ones the province uses to evaluate municipalities. So they kind of break them into two categories, so sustainability and flexibility. So the sustainability ratios, they refer to the municipality's ability to meet its financial and service obligations without significantly increasing debt or taxes, ensuring long-term fiscal health and service delivery capacity. So the four, and I'll go through them: tax arrears ratio, net financial assets as a percentage of revenue, and the total reserve ratio, and your cash ratio. Then you've also got these flexibility ratios. So these kind of, it's defined as they reflect the municipality's capacity to manage finances and respond to challenges without overburdening taxpayers or relying on long-term borrowing. So these ratios include the debt servicing ratio, asset consumption ratio, and the operating surplus ratio. So next slide. So these, what we did is, these are publicly available ratios through the through the province. There's FIR filing. So we kind of picked 11 comparable sized municipalities and just to see where Pembroke lined up. You notice there's probably a couple on there you probably would think you would see, like Petawawa and Renfrew, for example, but their information wasn't available yet, so that's why they aren't included. You'll also notice there's a few outliers. Some ratios are quite higher or low, but for the most part, I think it provides a pretty good analysis. So, first one's your tax arrears ratio. So, obviously, the lower the better. So this takes your total tax arrears divided by your total revenues. So Pembroke, so 2024 was 6.85%, so less than 10% is considered low risk. So you're in the low risk category. It is trending upwards, though, you'll see the last 3 years, so it is something to be cognizant of going forward. Compared to other municipalities, you ranked out of the 12 we picked the 5th highest, so kind of right in the middle. The next ratio is your net financial assets as a percentage of revenue. So here, the higher the better. So low risk is if you're above negative 50%. So in your case, it's been going down a bit, but you're at 54%. So you're well in the low risk category. And then out of the 12 we selected there, you can see you're third best. So that one's good. Next one, total reserves ratio. So here, to be considered low risk, you have to be over 20%. As you can see, all the municipalities we looked at were considered low risk. Pembroke's down a bit this year at 55.2%, but still well in that low risk category. You ranked 4th out of 12 out of the ones we selected. Next one is your cash ratio. So this includes, so basically it compares cash and investments compared to total liabilities. So again, it's been down, but it was quite high. So for 2024, it was 141%, which to be low risk, you have to be above 10%. So you're in good shape there. A lot of municipalities are pretty good cash wise. Yes, you ranked 10th out of 12 there, but again, they a lot of strong ratios there. Next, we'll get into the debts, the flexibility ratio. So the first one's your debt servicing ratio. So this is a big one, basically to the lenders like this one to see how much debt you can take on and afford to repay. So you didn't take any long-term debt on the last couple of years, so it has been trending downwards. So to be low risk, you have to be less than 5%. So for 2024, it was 3.23%. So out of the 12, third best percentage there. But that could change quickly, right, if you took on a bunch of new debt. So you can see now there's the next few, you'll see there's a lot more municipalities that are in the moderate risk category. So there was a few for debt servicing, and then the next one, asset consumption. So as you can see, yeah, there's 5 municipalities that are in the moderate risk. So this is the one that Pembroke is the closest. So all the ratios are green, low risk, but this one was the closest to being at that moderate risk level. So basically how this one's calculated, you take your total accumulated amortization of all the assets over time and divided by your historical cost. So to be in a low risk, you want to be less than 50%. So you're at 48.35%. So it did go down because of the significant capital upgrades last year, which is good. You're close to that 50% threshold. Kind of the way I look at it is, so if everything in the city was brand new, it would be 0. If everything was at its full useful life, you'd be at 100%. So it kind of reflects that assets are kind of at its halfway life, is what the ratios says. And then the last one is your operating surplus ratio. So you do have a strong operating surplus. So to be at a low risk category, you just have to be above -1%. So you're at 23.85%. So again, out of the 12, you ranked at 4th. So that's concludes my presentation. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions from council? No? Councillor Purcell?
Just more of a comment. Thanks for dumbing it down a bit for us. I really like the ratios. I think that's important that we have these comparators with other municipalities, because it's good to see, how we're performing related to other municipalities. So thank you so much. I've always kind of known that we've been in a strong financial position, the city of Pembroke, and I think this kind of shows that we're doing very well, and that that the city is through the efforts of our treasurer. I think she needs to be congratulated in terms of continuing us on this path, because there's a lot of times they said, that there's comments from the treasurer in terms of that you're not spending enough capital, or we're not putting enough dollars away in terms of our reserves. So thank you so much for your presentation tonight.
Councillor Keel, and then Councillor Jackno.
So I take it these ratios are kind of like the snapshot of like today. Is there any way to like give us an outlook in terms of things that we know are coming, or like obviously we know there's a water tower coming, there's lots of stuff that needs to get done. So I'm just wondering, does anybody do any forward projecting or forecasting? And that might not be you guys, maybe this is a question for the treasurer, but I mean, it's good to see that we're in a good financial position today, but if some of us are here 23 years from now, is there anybody that does more of a forecast projection so that we know where we're heading when we're making day-to-day budget decisions?
Yeah, no, it is a fair point. Yeah, though these are 2024 ratios. So to forecast, it's probably more a treasurer type question. But Angela, do you want to comment?
So we can't take on any more debt until, if we are to take on more debt, I have to prepare a report to council to indicate how that's going to impact our debt repayment limit set by the province every year. And you will notice, just because we're talking about debt more to take on some larger projects than in this year's budget package, in addition to the debt we're taking on now, I also kind of estimated a bunch of new debt that's going to be coming on board over the next 5 years. So it's certainly something that I think will change as we're trying to improve and upgrade some of our assets that are, near end of life or at a point where they need significant renewal. But I do think that that's definitely something to pay attention to over the next few years.
Councillor Jackno.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your presentation. The CES 600 audit standard is more intense, as you were saying. Yes. There's more communication between the shareholders, et cetera. To me, I appreciate that, because there seems to be more communication as to defining the numbers and what they actually are. We seem to be in a pretty good condition when I look at that. Even though the economy generally, it seems to be struggling, especially with COVID, and now the new tariff issues have been placed perhaps against not only, the province and the country, but even small municipalities such as our own. If we're buying certain items, we're going to be faced with some sort of a tariff, that'll make a difference that we haven't had before. But thank you for your statements, and we seem to be still in not a bad borrowing position if we really had to. And I think trying to keep your nose above the water line is a good thing, and to have a little money to bank is a good thing too. Thank you.
Yeah.
very briefly, just to thank you and what the comments that's already been made. Really do appreciate the graphs because I know every year it's usually, okay, where are we overall? And what about our debt ratio? Because that's always, I know Les Scott, former councillor Les Scott, would always want to know those two particular things. And so, and you'd have to ask because to look at your financial statements, it's like, oh, so either dumb it down for us, and that's what you've done to present it to us. I know that what's being said is in previous years, there are some times when in terms of our debt ratio that we started to approach the moderate range, and it's nice to see it backing off. I know that anytime I see that it's creeping up, it's like, where are we headed? And then it starts coming down, but I know that some things are cyclical, so I do appreciate what Councillor Keel is saying, is that in terms of, so where are we going? And then when you see the debt going down, it's like, okay, so there must be something on the horizon. And yeah, like what a water tower, I think is like 12 million. Like none of this stuff is cheap. But I do very much appreciate it. And do we need a motion to accept your report or anything, or we're just good to go? Good to go. Thank you.
Yes, just a comment from the chair. A lot of the information that was presented tonight confirms some of the things that have been coming to us from our asset management and that type of thing, showing the aging facilities in that one graph that you showed us. So we know that a lot of it is coming, and we know that we have to look forward to spending more money on them. So in reference to Councillor Keel's comment about can we look into the future, I think that our staff are doing that. And I know with our new water and sewer agreement with Laurentian Valley, they are always doing that. They're incorporating expenses they know are going to come in the future, and that's reflected in your water and sewer rates. So again, on behalf of council, thank you for your presentation tonight, and I love the graphs too. It's moved us
good. Yeah, okay,
up
we'll do that
into-
again next year.
Yeah, no, it's very good. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
Okay. And next on the agenda, we have the Parks and Recreation Master Plan Year 1 Progress Update from Director Drochet and his lovely assistant. Just kidding.
Just to clarify, I think we skipped one report.
Sorry?
I do believe under new business, it's the commemorative asset policy.
Commemorative asset policy.
We'll start
Sorry
with that
about
one, if that's okay.
Yep, go ahead.
Perfect, right on. All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Just want to take a moment and congratulate Madam Chair on 25 years. I can certainly say that I've worked, many years with Councillor Frenier. She's always been in our corner for Parks and Recreation, so thank you very much. This evening, I do have Claudia Gattinger here with us tonight. So she is the recreation specialist with the department. She's actually been working quite diligently on a few projects, which are going to be in front of council this evening. So she is here with us tonight to answer any questions, should there be any. So I guess we'll start with the first report. The recommendation for this report is that the Parks and Recreation Committee of Council approve the commemorative asset policy to be commenced in 2026. I guess I just kind of wanted to note a few things of this report is that this policy that we're trying to create here is essentially to establish a cost-sharing approach, to get new benches and trees and whatnot in our facilities as well as our parks. I know last week at the budget deliberation, I spoke pretty heavily about the tree removals and everything throughout the city. So we're looking at ways to try and improve the canopy in our parks and our facilities. One thing with this policy is that we would remain responsible for the installations, just to ensure that we have the unity and we're following different protocols and whatnot. We have had organizations in the past that may have made some decisions and whatnot for us. Not that it was a bad thing. It's just that we want to create that unity and whatnot as we move forward. One of the things I did want to mention as well is that we are looking to have this as kind of a cost-neutral policy, so kind of an in and out as best we can. So anything that we can do internally for installation and whatnot, we would be hoping to do. One other thing that we would like to mention here is a donor wall. So this is something that would be non-reoccurring, and this is to do specifically with the tree planting. So what our idea here is to have essentially a tree, and each plaque is a leaf in the shape of a leaf that would recognize a person who planted a tree in the community. It could be either individuals or it can be organizations. As of 2026, so next year, we will be launching the policy for both tree and bench dedications. I do want to point out that the one nice thing about this policy is that we're identifying 2 assets, and this is strictly because this is the one of the, or 2 things that we usually get inquiries about. So we're starting with the tree and bench. However, this policy is really nice. The way it's set up is that if there are other park amenities, we can actually incorporate them into this policy so that it does have the opportunity to grow. We don't have to rewrite a policy. And finally, I just want to note underneath our strategic plan impact that this is something that is straight from our Parks and Recreation master plan. So thank you.
Questions, comments from council? Councillor Purcell.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Director Grosje. I think it's important that we have this policy, and I think kudos to you for putting this together. I think it really sets some parameters around, some of the assets that we have in terms of memorial assets, and I think it also puts a little bit more rigor in regards to how long we're going to maintain them, how they're going to be replaced, who's going to erect them. So I think that's great. My only question is in terms of the decommemoration aspect. So who determines whether it had a negative effect on the city or its image? Yeah, thank you.
So we're planning on creating an internal policy just within the department on how we would categorize when it would be decommemorated. However, it's something that we don't think is likely to happen, but we will be creating that internal policy.
I think that's what I wanted to see. I just wanted to see if there was some sort of process around that, and who would be final say in terms of removing that piece of memory or commemoration. So thank you.
Further questions, comments? Councillor Keel.
So I think this kind of policy is certainly important. I think even in our city over years, there's been discrepancies and questions, and I just think of the boardwalk, and even to this day, some people still only now realize that the original plaques from the year 2000 are not there, and I believe that boardwalk was replaced many, many years ago now. I mean, pre-COVID for sure. And there's still some people, that ask me, well, why wasn't the plaques replaced? And it's like, well, and Jordan, I think you and I discussed this, that when you do one of those commemorative events, it wasn't necessarily with respect to the people that paid, but we weren't guaranteeing you a plaque for the next 1,000 years. These things have lifespans, so I think the fact that we're just putting it in writing and being upfront with the people, I think will go a long way in terms of those kinds of communication questions that come up then later on. So certainly I support this kind of policy. I would encourage staff to go further for larger things that do happen less periodically, but that create their own issues. And I know the treasurer, who's still here in the room, her and I very early in this term attended an asset management conference in Eganville, and there was a mayor who I think was from a former mayor who was from British Columbia, who, something came up on the screen and it was talking about, like clubs, Rotary Kiwanis that donate, splash pads and things like that. And I remember sitting there thinking, oh, this is great. Like, let's talk about all of these wonderful donations. And then basically she, pointed out that they're all great at the very beginning when you do the ribbon cutting, and then shortly thereafter there's maintenance, and then there's replacement costs, and oftentimes replacing it is more expensive as things go up in price than the original project, and that all of that gets downloaded then onto the municipality. So it's one of those, like buying your kid a puppy dog. There's a cost up front, but you need to think about the years of food and vet bills and replacement. And so certainly I would be keen for us to go further and develop those kinds of policies, and whether, I certainly look for staff's recommendations and thoughts around this table, but the next time we are approached by a club that wants to install $100 and some thousand whatever, how are we handling that? How are we thinking about the fact that someday this is going to be added to our list of things that we need to keep up and replace? So I think this is an amazing start. This certainly is probably, as you said, the most common things. Thank you for that, and I personally would love to see us go further steps with this kind of a policy.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you very much for the great work again. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the commemorative asset policy to be
Okay.
commenced in 2026.
Motion on the floor, Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Keel. Any further comments? No? I'll call the question. All in favor? Approved. Okay. So next on to the next item, Parks and Recreation Master Plan, Year 1, update.
All right, thank you. So the recommendation for this is that the Parks and Recreation Committee of Council receive this report for information, and that the 2025 Parks and Recreation Master Plan update to be presented to Council to outline the progress achieved in the first year of implementation. Thank you.
Questions from council, comments? Or do you want to explain? Yeah. go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'm just going to turn the mic over to Claudia. She has some
Okay, great.
information to share.
I'll go ahead. So I'll give you a little bit of a background about the Parks and Recreation Master Plan because it is quite a lengthy document, so I'm not sure if many have had the time to read it. But it was adopted by Council in 2024, and then I was hired in 2025 April to kind of push forward all the recommendations that are in there. It is a 10-year document, so it will kind of be happening over the next 10 years. There are 72 recommendations, but within those 72 recommendations, there's 139 sub-recommendations, and those are kind of the action items that I will be taking on over the years. So far this year, we were able to complete 18% of the recommendations, and that's through my efforts, but also through the efforts of everybody in the department. I do want to note that I have classified 9 recommendations as ongoing. And basically what this means is that they really can never be completed. They're like fostering partnerships with organizations that will see a return on investment, and we can always foster those partnerships. There's never going to be an end. So I kind of classified those as ongoing, and every year we'll kind of outline, what steps we took that year towards that recommendation. And then we have 67.6% for the next 8 to 9 years. There is a planned review of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan in 5 years, so 2029, just seeing if we need to update it based on our progress or how the world has changed. I do want to focus on 2 recommendations that we have completed this year that I'm pretty excited about. The first one is on page 3 of the Master Plan update. And it's SD 20, Continue to Advance Accessibility for Ontario's with Disabilities Act, the AODA. And we kind of took a couple different strides to it. So first off, we did apply to 2 different grants to increase Pembroke's accessibility, playground equipment, and paved pathways. Unfortunately, we didn't get one, but we are still waiting to hear back from one of them, and we are very hopeful. And then we started 2 programs. One is the sensory friendly skates, and that's just an opportunity for kids that, might have any mental or physical disabilities to have the chance to skate. And so we are offering 4 of those this year and are very excited about them. And then we also partnered with Dragonfly Family and Learning Services to host Park Club socials. And these are just times for kids who are neurodivergent and their parents to get together at playgrounds, and they can become friends, the parents can meet and kind of have a support group. And those have also gone really well, and we're looking at expanding them next year. And then lastly, we installed a new chairlift at Kinsman Pool and also a new accessible swing at the Kinsman Park. And the other one I briefly want to touch on, I did say that it was completed, but unfortunately we are having some delays with our graphic designer. But that's on page 8, and that's the creation of the 2026 recreation calendar. So we're bringing back the recreation guide, but with a twist. It's going to be a calendar and one that families can use to write down their different appointments, but it'll also highlight all the programs and events that we have going on at the city. So I'm really excited about this because it'll kind of serve as a promotion for our events and a friendly reminder, but then it's also a useful tool so they're not just going to throw it out once they get it. And then the recommendation is to utilize technology, and I understand this is a paper handout, but we will be utilizing technology because we'll be offering kind of contests throughout the calendar, not only to engage the citizens, but also to use it to understand who's using the calendar, how many people are using it, and then seeing if we're able to expand it next year to look at some sponsorship opportunities and maybe some community partnerships. So those are kind of the two things that I've been working on that I'm most excited about for this year. Looking into next year, we're looking at, again, quite a few recommendations, but it's going to be the year of data. And so I've kind of looked at it a little bit this year, and it's going to be a pretty big undertaking to kind of compile all the data that we get from our online registration, from our social media, and from the post-program survey, and then kind of compile it and make it into a usable dashboard that everybody in our department can kind of glance at to make data-driven decisions. So that's kind of 2026, and that's kind of my spiel about what I've done this year and what I'm planning to do next year. And if you want me to expand on any points or you have any questions, please just let me know.
Okay, I think I see Deputy Mayor with his hand up.
No, I just want to comment and thank you and the staff. A couple of words came to my mind. It was for the Recreation Department, very active and very engaged in the community. Great to see the accessibility additions and the events that are held, and also the partnerships that we do with other events like Busker Fest and Multicultural Festival. This document was a long time coming because the previous council had it on their agenda, but then COVID kept putting it on the back burner. So now it's great to see we've already completed year 1, 18%. A lot of long way to go, but it's great to have a working document that's flexible like that and to guide you along, and excellent staff to direct the ship. So thank you.
Thank you.
Further comments, questions? Seeing none, I just want to, yeah, okay, Councillor Purcell, you go ahead and I'll speak last from the chair.
I just wanted to say thank you because I see a lot of these plans and policies that don't get really updated. So the annual update, I really appreciate that, and just to kind of see, how we're doing compared to the recommendations that were already posted. So I think this is one of those things that we just want to continually see on a regular basis in terms of updates, because it's really important that, I think we just saw in the past presentation how much we spend on consultants. And the consultants usually end up generating a report. And I'm positive that we don't act upon all these recommendations that are in these reports in terms of what we've paid the consultant to do. So I appreciate that for holding our feet to the fire, and you guys, actually implementing the recommendations as per the Recreation Master Plan. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all your work on this. I'd like to see that most of the time you're looking for something to offset the costs as well. So we know that we have to implement a lot of these, but looking for partnerships, looking for ways to sponsor some of the expenses that we have to spend are always a good way, to make sure that it's a popular choice. So thank you. And no more questions? I think, this is just an update. We don't need any direction. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Next, we have the OPP 2026 annual billing statements, and Treasurer Deputy Clerk Lochte.
Thank you and good evening. So the city received the OPP 2026 annual billing statement when we were at the Christmas party, actually. So just in time for budget deliberations. So I did want to share the more detailed report. So this report is presented for information. I have provided a snapshot of costs in my report from the years 2022 to 2026. As we can see, our base costs for the OPP in 2026 will be 1.4 million. Our calls for service are increasing to 3.2 million. With overtime, court security, and prisoner transportation, equaling another 800,000. The province did cap the total cost to the city at 11%, so the cap adjustment for 2026 was just over $600,000. So the city will pay $4.9 million next year for OPP services, but we will also be subject to a year-end adjustment. So every year, the OPP reconciles the estimated costs to the actual costs, and either we get a credit back or we have to pay additional funds. So for the year 2025, we will need to pay an additional $413,000 to reconcile the 2024 actuals to what was charged to the city. So obviously, this will still have significant impact in this year, so it will likely reduce the surplus we typically see. Time will tell. We still have lots of expenses to process before we know our exact year-end surplus at the end of this year. And the increase from year to year is just over 4%. And enclosed is the detailed calculations and calls for service in our community. So I'll pass it back to the chair. Thank you.
Questions, comments? Councillor Purcell.
Not so much for the treasurer, but maybe for those on the police board. When will we receive the 2025 statistics? Like the calls for service counts are from 21 to 24. I know the year isn't over, but when I know that we were supposed to receive a presentation by the inspector this year in regards to the 24 stats. So I'm just wondering, you know, do we have it in schedule? Is there a certain time of the year? And maybe that question is more for the CAO or the clerk in terms of when we would see those statistics.
Thank you for the question. So through the PSB, the presentation will likely take place in the Q1. They have undergone some management changes with the inspector leaving for another position. So we're getting acquainted with the new personnel. I will touch base with them to see when they can come and present as per the agreement.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, thank you for that update. Thank you. And now we'll call up Chief Sell, talk about the purchase of a new pumper rescue fire truck.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and congratulations on the 25 years. I'd also like to say it's interesting to see how the other half of the family operates on a Tuesday night, so sort of feel like Director Lewis, jumping around all over the place. But thank you for allowing me to come and present this. So the recommendation is that from the Pembroke Fire Department is that committee approve the award of the supply and delivery of one new pumper rescue fire truck from Commercial Emergency Equipment Company in the amount of $1,410,393.60, with the total funds for the project coming from the Fire Department Fleet Reserves and the General Capital Reserves. I will leave the financial comment from our treasurer till the end. So background, Pembroke Fire Department issued a request for proposal number P2511 for the supply and delivery of one new pumper fire rescue truck, which closed on November 26, 2025. This truck will replace our 2006 Spartan that has reached the end of its service life. The asset management plan has identified a replacement of any frontline pumper rescue apparatus after 15 years and a reserve status pumper rescue apparatus after an additional 5 years. The service life years are based on the industry best practices following Fire Underwriter Survey and nationally recognized standards like National Fire Protection Association. Further compliance with the Occupational Health and Safety Act is also addressed through the replacement plan. As mentioned above, we will be replacing our 2006 Spartan Pumper Rescue, which has served the City of Pembroke for 15 years as a frontline truck and has reached the end of its 5-year reserve status. The City received 2 competitive bids for proposal number 25-11. The proposals were reviewed and evaluated by a committee of 4 PFD members. All scoring was done individually by the committee members, and the compiling of the scoring to recommend a proponent was monitored by the city's purchasing manager, deputy treasurer. Proposals were reviewed and evaluated in accordance with the following predetermined criteria. So specifications accounted for 50%, project schedule 10%, warranty, service, and repairs 20%, and project cost fees 20%. The proposal that on average scores highest when evaluated compared to the criteria above and when compared to all other proposals received shall be deemed to provide the best value for the City of Pembroke. The recommendation included was derived by using the highest score based on the average of the evaluators as per the attached proposal evaluation matrix, which is included in your report. Based on the review, the evaluation committee believes the proposal from Commercial Emergency Equipment Company offers the best value for this project. Municipalities across Ontario have witnessed significant pricing increases for firefighting apparatus and equipment over the last 6 years. Market conditions, supply chain challenges and disruptions, labor shortages, recessions, and compliance with environmental protection laws are the primary drivers behind the cost increases. Another recent driver has been the introduction of tariffs on certain products. Not including the chassis and the parts that go into the completion of the chassis, another roughly 1,700 parts are required to complete the truck. As frontline apparatus age, we see increasing maintenance costs, reliability concerns, and compliance issues with safety standards. Any apparatus over 20 years of age significantly impacts the city's insurance grading. Fire Underwriters Survey has noted that fire trucks do not regularly show the considerable mechanical stress they are placed under during their lifetime. These stresses are masked by the fire service's high standard of care and maintenance and manifest in the interior underworking of the truck. Here at the Pembroke Fire Department, we have seen extensive repairs on this apparatus in the last few years as the internal components are degrading, increasing maintenance cost, and parts are becoming difficult to access due to the age of the vehicle. This does impact the strategic plan through the pillar of long-term financial planning through asset management. There are also impacts to the climate as the new apparatus meets current environmental protection standards. So as far as the Treasurer's financial comment, so after consideration of this purchase and the items budgeted in 2026, the current forecasted reserve balances at the end of 2026 is as follows. Fire equipment reserve would be at $0. General capital reserve would be at $439,821. At this time, I'll keep going. Well, at this time, the Treasurer would like to speak.
Okay, so I did get some questions about this. So originally in our forecast had included allocating $950,000 from the fire equipment reserve to this acquisition. Given that this project is roughly 1.4, we can only allocate, and that's a shortfall of about $460,000. We only have $321,807.94 estimated to be available at the end of 26 to finance the acquisition of this vehicle. So we will need to pull from the general capital reserve to fund the difference of $138,585.66. So essentially, we will be clearing out the fire equipment reserve as we've talked about at budget time. You know, we aren't funding the full amount required every year, and we're trying to build that in. And the consequence is, you know, we don't necessarily have all the funds we need if some of our estimates aren't sufficient and go over as we're seeing right now. Because we base our forecast on the best information we have available at the time. But obviously, tendering is the final decision maker in terms of how much things cost. Considering that we'll have to allocate $138,000 from the general capital reserve, the revised general capital balance at the end of next year is estimated to be $439,000. So it's a pretty low amount for that reserve as well. So thank you.
Councillor Plummer?
Hi, Chief, have we ever looked at used equipment? Maybe someone's moving something off their line that's not end of life and then could be new to us?
So no, we have never made the foray into used equipment in the past. We are looking at purchasing a product that's going to service the city of Pembroke as a frontline fire truck for 15 years and then the reserve status for 20 years. So we're looking at a piece of equipment that's going to serve the city for 20 years. A little bit of stuff I do know about used equipment. I think the average life on the used equipment would be roughly about 15 years. So now we're already working into that reserve status, and then the unknown of everything else that would go along with it, upgrades to the pump, upgrades to the body, upgrades to all the other parts of the truck. That's something that I haven't considered.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Keel?
What was the cost of the other bid?
I'm not sure how the purchasing procedure works on that one, but to my knowledge, generally we don't give that information out. I can tell you that this commercial did score lower than the other vehicle.
Okay. In operations, we get the list of bids, usually. Almost always, I think. If we're zeroing out the fire equipment reserve, when do we expect to have the next major purchase? Please tell me not next year.
Next major purchase would be roughly in 2030. But the next major purchase for a fire apparatus would be in 2038.
Okay, so we, in theory, have some times to build that back up. So then the final question, I mean, in some ways a reserve is a reserve. And I think I spoke with you, Madam Treasurer, on that so far in our current budget, we haven't touched the levy stabilization money that we just put away, I think, last month. Is there any reason not to dip into that and maintain our general capital reserve? And I only say that because, as you and I discussed, I'm not dropping this on the treasurer, but that was money we taxed the people. We didn't end up using all of it, and we put it in the levy stabilization. Now I feel like we're kind of holding some of that money hostage, and I don't know, I think we should be using the money from the surplus. Anyway, that's my opinion on that, but my understanding is I don't think we touched it yet so far. So there is still the levy stabilization reserve that has most of last year's surplus money in it.
Councillor Jackno?
Can I get an answer to that question?
I don't know. Can you? Angela?
Yes, so typically the bulk of the surplus goes to the general capital reserve, and this year it went to the levy stabilization reserve instead. So there is funding in there available should committee and council decide to reallocate.
Councillor Jackno, then Councillor Purcell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The commercial emergency company that we're purchasing the truck from, are they a Canadian firm?
Yes, they are located in Brampton.
And you had mentioned, Chief, that subcomponents and parts, is there any impact with tariffs on that particular issue that we're being hit with?
Through you, Madam Chair, I think we've all been educated on the automotive industry in North America over the last year with the way that things have come around with the new president in the United States. But I think with this particular truck, you see the chassis, and then on top of the chassis, there's 1,700 additional parts that go into making a fire truck. So all those parts are coming from somewhere, and the way that the automotive industry is built in North America, there will be some tariff implications on this one, yes.
So we couldn't put a percentile on what those tariffs would be on a piece of equipment that we wouldn't have had the tariffs on previously? I'm just trying to see what impact it would have on the taxpayer.
We could, but in all honesty, I don't think any proponent would share that information.
Thank you.
Councillor Purcell?
I think I was going to hold off this question until we started talking a little bit about some of the changes that we made in terms of the changes to the budget. But I looked at the levy stabilization fund. It is the $510,000 where we put the bulk of those dollars. The unfortunate part is we zeroed out the police, so now we're going to be zeroing out the fire equipment. The two most expensive. They're number 1 and number 2 in terms of our budget items. So I just want council to be aware that, you know, we're going to have $0 in these two reserves once we eliminate those dollars. And only $439K in the general capital reserve. So I think that, yes, that levy stabilization is there, but we're also expecting next year increased OPP fees, right? Because we already talked about the 2026 reconciliation, and we're going to have a reconciliation for next year as well. So I just wanted you to be aware that, you know, I know that I heard some discussions in regards to maybe potentially looking at a 1% levy decrease this year. Maybe some councillors talking around the table. But that's not impossible to do. Otherwise, you're going to rob Peter to pay Paul. So I just want people to be aware of that. And I think we should be using the levy stabilization fee maybe just to top up some of these other reserves before, instead of going right to the tax levy decrease. Thank you.
Mayor?
Thank you. So 3 different questions and then a comment. So if, I don't know how you want to do this, but anyways, in terms of the old one, I take it you would declare it as surplus. And do you got any sort of sense, I'm assuming that's what you're going to do with it, and do you got any sense of what we might make on declaring it surplus, or you?
So the surplus truck has been factored into the cost as a trade-in value. Looking at the value of used apparatus at that age on across Canada, we feel that the best bet is to utilize the trade-in value through the company.
Okay, thanks. Next question is, do you have any, when I look at your matrix, back up, when I look at your matrix, I don't see anything in terms of points for the particular, at least I didn't see it, points for the particular company and so forth. So are you familiar with this particular company when you're suggesting this one to council?
So with this particular company, that would be the 3rd vehicle we've purchased from them. So small potatoes, I know when we're talking about this, but as far as future forecasting, this definitely will assist in our maintenance planning. As now we're just dealing with one company. When they come up to do any type of servicing on the other 2 units, now they're servicing all 3 units. Currently, to get a staff up to do servicing on a truck, it is roughly $1,000 for travel. So if we could eliminate that one particular travel, that certainly helps in long-term planning. The parts, our service warranties, and the response to our warranty issues have been very, very good with this company. So we are quite familiar with their product, and we are quite confident that it will be a very good piece of equipment for the city for 20 years.
The last question I have for you is, I know years ago when we purchased the aerial truck, it took a significant period of time. I'm not criticizing anyone. It took a significant period of time to construct it because it's a specialized piece of equipment. So do we expect that we're going to receive this in 2026, or is it going to be even longer than that to get it?
So that was the initial hope, was 2026. Timelines are varying day to day. No company is able to say we can deliver it in an X amount of time. Generally, they're pretty broad parameters. We're looking at anywhere from, some companies were 12 months, some were 24 months. So with the scoring of the two proponents, they were pretty close. Generally within 12 to 14 months is what we expect.
Thank you. And then just a comment, and it's in terms of what's sort of being talked about but not being talked about when we get to council. So there's a motion that's coming forward, and I will be looking to make a motion and see if it survives in terms of rejigging some things. But it's exactly that, looking at this stabilization reserve, which we put in 350,000, and then we topped it up and put in more. And Councillor Purcell is quite right. It's more than $500,000 sitting in it. But in any event, and so, anyways, I'm leaving those comments until we get to the council meeting because that's where I'm doing that.
Deputy Mayor? And then Councillor Jackno.
Thank you. A question for you, Chief. What's your window of price freeze? So you've been quoted a price. How many days do you have to, before it goes up?
Through you, Madam Chair, we have a 60-day window on the proposal. So November 26th, then we're roughly about halfway through that window.
Okay. And Madam Treasurer, if I could ask you a question. So we need to find $138,585 to top it up. Okay, so I'm going to make a motion that we award the contract to the company, and we take $138,585 from the General Capital Reserve to top up so we can purchase this much needed vehicle. And I'll just comment that we still have this 510 to deal with later that can be transferred to General Cap Reserve or whatever. So we have to buy the truck. So we still have the 510,000 that can go, some of it can go to General Cap Reserve to top it up later. So the motion is that we award the contract and pay the difference from the General Capital Reserve, $138,585. Do I have a seconder?
Okay, seconder, Councillor Plummer. Councillor Jackno has a comment.
You, Madam Chair. Over the years and traditionally, protective services have always been the bulk of our expense in our budget. Police and fire, it didn't matter if it was our own local police service or the new OPP. But I have to say, the reserve funds that have been in place, for example, to purchase the new fire truck that we purchased a number of years ago, there was some due diligence with those reserves, and I believe we didn't have to transfer any money around, that the money was there. In fact, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, when we spent the $1 million on the brand new fire truck, we weren't shuffling money around. That money was there, right?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, the money was there. Nobody, when those reserves were set up, nobody could have forecasted the costing increases we've seen over the last few years.
Exactly, that's the point I'm getting at. So, I mean, with all due diligence, the reserve was there. There's a shortfall, but there are many other factors that, COVID, supply and demand, the supply and demand chain, tariffs, I'm sure, are going to have an impact. And I mean, God knows, you have 60 days or 90 days. If there's an additional tariff by our illustrious President of the United States that may make it 200 or 400% on parts that you're getting, it's going to impact, that vehicle price as well. So I believe the motion to go forward is the right one. Thank you.
Councillor Purcell, one comment, and then I'll make my comment.
You stated that there's a piece of equipment you're looking to purchase in 2030. Could you elaborate in terms of the next big purchase? You said 2030 and 2038.
Yes, so 2030 is the time when we are scheduled in the asset management plan to replace our SCBA's.
Oh, okay.
So there does have to be some research to go into that to see where we are at with the technology and where we're at with the standards when it comes to SCBA's. So there will have to be some research done on that one.
And would you have like a ballpark number right now if you had to replace them? I just need to understand because you only have 3 years to repopulate the fire equipment reserve. Because really, you're getting the piece of equipment in 26, 27 probably. All right, 12 to 14 months. That being said, that gives us less than 3 years to repopulate the fire equipment fund. So I'm just curious, like, are we talking, how big of an expense are we looking at? And
You're
again,
asking me
just
to do
and
math?
again, it's just ballpark, okay? I just need to understand in terms of the amount of dollars. I would take it that the more significant expense would be the 2038 would be replacement of another bumper.
I would say roughly $300,000.
Oh, okay.
And that is just a rough estimate, and please don't
300,000.
take that to the bank, because that
300,000.
is just a very rough
Yeah,
estimate.
no, that's okay. I thought it was going to be a bigger number, that's why.
Okay, so my question is, I believe the mayor's correct. The aerial truck took a long time to come in. Do you have to pay for the whole thing before it's ordered? Like
No.
when? No.
No.
And so if it's not going to be ready for another 12 to 14 months, let's say, because that's a possibility, I'm just wondering if we can break it into 2 budget years rather than draining our levy, like draining our general capital and draining the levy reserve or whatever we called it. So I'm just wondering if that's a possibility. If it's not being delivered for 14 months, why drain everything? That way, next year you can plan for that budget. So I'm just wondering if you could firm up the delivery date a little better and we don't have to pay Paul today, so to speak. I'm just wondering if that's an option.
So I guess to answer is we only take the money out at the end once it's received, right? But we have to earmark it that we've made that commitment to the account, right? And we don't have a guarantee of the 27 budget contribution because that's the decision of the next council. So it's just something we have to keep in mind, right?
Thank you. So we have Councillor Keel.
So the current motion on the floor, I think, only dealt with the general capital reserve. Do we need to deal with the fire reserve in the motion? Can I get the motion read back, actually?
The motion is to award the contract to the commercial emergency equipment company for the new fire truck and pay the balance from the general capital reserve, $138,585. Yeah, but we have the 510 to deal with later. You can transfer.
So are we dealing with the fire reserve anywhere?
So I guess the balance of it is being funded by the fire equipment reserve.
I was just looking at your
So-
sample motion, and we didn't address that reserve at all.
So we have a motion, we have a seconder. Everyone understand the motion? I'll call the question. Those in favor? Opposed? Okay. Thank you. And next, updated fire department user fees, Chief Sell. I don't think he wants you to go anywhere, Angela.
So,
Okay.
thank you, Madam Chair. So the recommendation is that committee endorse and recommend council approval of the amended Schedule E of Bylaw 2025-24, hereby updating the Pembroke Fire Department user fee outlined under the schedule. So the fees outlined in Schedule E of Bylaw 2025-24 are intended to recover costs associated with non-tax supported services such as certain types of fire inspections, permits, false alarm responses, and some specialized services, for example, like hazardous material responses. Our current user fee schedule was last reviewed and updated in 2024. The schedule requires updating to allow the city to utilize the indemnification technology and implement the user agreement with Firemark as approved at the December 2nd, 2025 council meeting through bylaw 2025-87. So reviews were conducted of neighboring municipalities, similarly sized departments across Ontario and larger urban departments. The new user fee schedule takes into consideration current economic pressures and attempts to balance the needs of the department while lessening the burden on the ratepayers of the city. Schedule also addresses annual CPI increases going forward. Recommended fees are included in the updated fire department fee schedule as seen in Appendix A. There will also be a bylaw before council this evening in order to allow the fire department to proceed with the services of Firemark as soon as possible. So if we go to Schedule A, the user fees are outlined. There are a couple asterisks. So as far as the asterisks go, the single asterisk, it has incorporated CPIs for 2026. And then the double asterisks would be CPIs that would start in 2027, and this is due to the increase in the fees that we have put in place for 2026. So there's already an increase in 2026, and then CPI will begin in 2027. As far as new fees that we're looking to introduce would be one would be a malicious false alarm. So the first response to a malicious false alarm would be $354.40. Second and subsequent responses would be $708.75. We're looking at introducing fire safety plan approval, review and approval, and that would be $125 plus HST. And then starting in 2027, we would see the CPI increase those numbers. Any type of marijuana grow-op inspections, investigations, and compliance, those would be an 125 plus HST. Vehicle accidents for non-residents, that would be $354.40 per hour plus HST plus a fuel surcharge plus any additional costs. An additional fee we're looking at is a response to natural gas leaks, $708.75 an hour plus HST, plus fuel surcharges and plus any additional costs. So I'll be clear on this one. This isn't an intent that if somebody smells natural gas leaking from their home, this isn't the intent of this fee. The intent of this fee is for somebody or a business, or sorry, I shouldn't say business, a company who is digging and they failed to get locates, or they have got locates and they're just not taking their time. And we have seen a number of increases to responses to these events, and they are quite costly. So the next one is just an apparatus fuel surcharge, and we've put that at $50 an hour right now because that, in discussion with the fire hall mechanic, we feel that is an adequate number considering the amount of work the truck would have to do while on scene. So fire response fees through indemnification technology would be $708.75 an hour plus fuel surcharges plus any additional costs for each of these incidents. We have added fire started in contravention of recreational burning bylaw. So that is a cost recovery that is tied to the burning bylaw. And we also have cost recovery as outlined in recreational burning bylaws 2025-78. So we have, if a fire is started and we have to respond to it, and then we have the cost recovery if a permitted fire is not, if people aren't following the rules under a permit and the fire causes us to respond. So we have the two recoveries there. We have a recovery for hazardous material responses to such incidents but not limited to hazardous materials, chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, or explosive incidents. We have cost recovery for use of specialized equipment, heavy equipment, or other services for the purpose of extinguishment, fire investigation, specialized rescue, the CBR and E calls that I alluded to earlier, hazmat, and specialized response. So this also includes any private contractor charges. We have added response to any incidents deemed of a criminal nature by the Pembroke Fire Department. That one is $708.75 an hour, plus fuel surcharges, plus any additional costs. Costs for decontamination, replacement of contaminated, damaged equipment, or the use of specialized materials in the mitigation of incidents of a criminal nature as described above, and those would be actual costs, and then use of special chemicals or agents, and that would be actual costs. So as far as strategic plan implications for this report, it does meet the vision of the current strategic plan and falls under the pillar of long-term financial planning. Thank you.
We have Councillor Keel.
Okay, thank you so much, Chief. I know a lot of work must have gone into this and looking at everything. I really think this supports what this council seems to have had an objective of. Yes, we've been raising taxes, but also looking for other avenues of revenue. As far as when I went through the list, I couldn't see, like if you're a taxpayer at Pembroke and your house catches on fire, I don't see where you're getting charged. So it's not like we're telling people, you know, we're adding a lot of costs on top of their taxes. A lot of this is extras and criminal activity and sort of non-fire attendance services that your department goes through, of course, with the inspections and whatnot. Couple questions that I did have. Is CPI good enough, or do we need CPI plus? And I don't know if the treasurer's listening on these comments, but because we've had quite a few conversations. I know planning and building, when we just did our increases, I think we used CPI plus. And I think the treasurer during budget was talking a lot about using, I want to say, a building index, construction index instead. So my only question would be, should we be using CPI plus? Maybe we should go one question at a time.
So before I call my esteemed associate back to the table, one thing that I was a little concerned about when looking at some of the fees was the intent is for cost recovery to lessen the impact on the ratepayers. Over the last few years, if I take the CPI, it outpaces the cost of to the department. So that is just one concern that I weighed there, but I'll hand it over to the treasurer.
So I guess my only comment would be, if it's a labor-intensive rate, then it might be more appropriate to use the collective bargaining annual increases as compared to the CPI.
And I think you kind of, I mean, if you've looked at it and you're saying CPI has outpaced it, then the good news is you might be the only department that's true for, but.
So I guess the fees will be revisited annually, regardless of where we're at. So if we see an adjustment is required, then an adjustment is required. With the introduction of the annual increases, I just maybe ask council's permission to go with it for now to see how it works. If you'll give me a year, I think we could see how it goes.
Yeah, no problem. The malicious false alarms, what are we calling that? Like, what is a malicious false alarm?
Somebody would pull the fire alarm with intent of pulling the fire alarm.
So like the high school kid that pulls the fire alarm. So then my next question is, are we charging the person that did it, or are we charging the property on which the alarm is at? Or are we looking for the person that did it, but substituting the property owner if we don't know who did? Like, how are we handling that scenario?
So I would be trying, because the property owner is not acting in any negligent way, that they're not, what they're doing is they're doing the best they can to prevent false alarms. I would be going after the individual that pulled the alarm.
Okay. I only say that because having been at Queen's University in Victoria Hall and having 82 false alarms in one of my university years, I know it can be difficult. You know, the person pulls the alarm and walks out the exit, and you never know who did it. So, and were these fees worked into this year's budget, or would this be over and above what was budgeted this year? And that's my last question.
This would be over and above. With the Firemark agreement, we needed to do this. I had updated or done the legwork on this one, preparing it for when the treasurer usually brings her things forward. So we're just sort of bumping it up a little bit. Back to the malicious, I do understand that one is going to be difficult, so this is a learning process, so.
Better to have it there than not, though, is what my thought would be. So I think we were asking for a motion.
Is there anyone else? Yeah.
I would move that committee endorse and recommend council approval of the amendments to Schedule E of Bylaw 2025-2024, hereby updating the Pembroke Fire Department user fees outlined under the schedule.
And I think Deputy Mayor is going to second that motion. Further comments from anyone else? Councillor Purcell?
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand the note. It says, should the insurer pay the coverage to the property owner is liable to remit the funds to the municipality. So if it's not insured, that's the way I'm reading it, should the insurer pay the coverage to the property owner, then the property owner is liable for the expenses. That's what note 1 says on the bottom.
Through you, Madam Chair, that one, yeah, perhaps the wording isn't 100% perfect on that one, but what the intent there is that if the insurer pays the coverage to the property owner, meaning the coverage that is to be set aside for the fire department response. So that would be the property owner gets their reimbursement through the insurance company, and the insurance company has sent the small fire department fee to the home property owner as well. That is now that property owner is to hand that portion over to the city. It doesn't affect what the homeowner is originally going to get on their claim.
I think maybe it could just be reworded a little bit differently, because to me that sounds like, you know, if I don't have insurance coverage, so I'm out there in my boat in the middle of the Ottawa River, I don't have boating insurance in terms of for rescue. I know another individual that has the rescue insurance. So if you come out and rescue me, I don't have the insurance, so I don't pay anything, but he has the insurance. You come out and rescue him, he pays the fee, well, the insurance company pays the fee. So I just don't understand how that works based on that note.
That note 1 is specifically tied to the fire indemnification technology. So notes 1, 2, and 3 are specifically tied to the Firemark agreement.
Okay. I just don't see that connection. Just says notes.
In the schedule.
Okay, it's in the schedule.
Fire response fees, indemnification technologies, under the rates, it says see notes 1, 2, and 3. And that is specific wording from the recommended by Firemark for the user fee schedule.
Okay.
Okay, can I speak from the chair? Okay. Yeah, I tend to agree with Councillor Purcell. That's kind of a muddied sentence. I would think the insurance company would be directing those funds directly to our fire department, not to the resident.
So I do think that they've encountered this in the past where the insurance company hasn't done that, and they've just sent everything to the homeowner because that's the one address that they're working with.
Well, my real comment was more around the Laurentian Valley and Whitewater rates. I understand that they have their own volunteer fire departments. I know that. They have their own budget for fire and that type of thing, but seems like a pretty good deal that they can use, you know, that they have us for mutual aid and they can use our very expensive aerial truck and other services. But that's my only comment, is that maybe, you know, we could just wait till they buy a new truck. And I mean, the conversations earlier today were very monetarily stressful. So I'm just thinking, you know, more partnerships, more agreements addressing capital. I don't know. That's my only comment. It's not that I disagree with your rates at all. It's just that sometimes it'd be easier to be the one getting the help from other communities and not having to purchase all these big items. That's all. That's just my opinion. Okay, so we have a motion. Another question. Sorry, go ahead.
Just one comment, Madam Chair. We are, and I know that CAO and Ra has mentioned this several times in the last little while, we are in a very unique position here in the city of Pembroke. You know, council has been diligent and provided us with equipment that other municipalities maybe haven't planned or forecast for. So I think we are in an extremely unique position, and I'll just leave that comment where it is. Thank you.
Yeah, we are. And I mean, the residents of the city of Pembroke can feel well protected, and I know that with your department. So it's not to take away anything like that. It's just, you know, sometimes the one that's paying always feels the brunt of it. So, okay, anyway, so if there's no more comments, we have a motion and a seconder, and I'll call the question. All in favor? Approved. Oh, sorry, against? One. Okay, approved. Thank you very much. And Merry Christmas, Chief. So now, next we have Clerk Charbonneau, 2026 Annual Accessibility Status Report.
Good evening. So I'm here tonight to present the 2025 Annual Accessibility Status Report. As you may recall, Pembroke is required by the Accessibility of Ontarians with Disabilities Act, or otherwise known as AODA, to review progress against its accessibility plan and publish an annual report once the plan is approved. The city's approach remains proactive. We do our best to identify, remove, and prevent barriers as much as possible so everyone can participate in our community. Since the plan's inception, several barriers have been eliminated, with some architectural constraints remaining due to older facilities. So this year, with our wonderful Accessibility Advisory Committee, otherwise known as the ACC, there was an annual tour done. The two facilities toured were Victoria Hall. This is a city-owned facility. And we also switched it up a little bit this year. We were partnered with our lovely counterparts at Festival Hall. This is leased by the city. And it consists of a consortium that helps to manage the operations there, made up of the City of Pembroke, the Township of Laurentian Valley, and the Town of Petawawa. So this year, the plan, we went through the facilities, we updated the matrix with some notable observations. This can be noted on Appendix A, page 18. So identified barriers were done, and then what happens after that is the plan is then submitted to the managers. The managers review with their staff, and what is done in the plan in total, not just the facilities toured in the year at hand, is commented on and updated along with dollar values that were attached to the improvements. So in 2025, barriers addressed were the Pembroke Street East entrance parking lot. It was formerly a one-way vehicle entrance. It has now been closed, and the space is being converted to a pedestrian-only access. This was identified in 2024 as a kind of on a wish list for the committee. So pedestrians who are walking up with disabilities and or not can remain safe. The traffic was quite quick coming down, and it wasn't the best visual appearance for pedestrians coming around the corner. So this was noted in the plan, and it was addressed this year. Brighter lighting was installed in the main floor lobby at City Hall. Council chambers, a more prominent lift request light was installed. It's above the door there. When someone needs the lift, the light flashes. So that has been changed color, so it's easier for us to identify when someone needs the lift. The City Hall front entrance door was recently replaced. The width now meets accessibility criteria. And money spent on accessibility upgrades, as noted by staff for the year 2025, is $25,575. From 2006 to 2025, the municipality has spent an estimated just over $7 million to remediate accessible barriers. So looking ahead to 2026, there are some planned upgrades that just couldn't make timeline provisions for 2025. As noted in the plan in 2024, as the City Hall washroom will be renovated as much as possible to meet accessibility upgrades as they were noted by the ACC. And City Hall lower level entrance improvements will be made for the back entrance, as there are committee members from the public that use our bottom boardroom, and there has been some noted barriers for entry. And upon approval of the report, as usual, the annual report will be posted on the city's website to meet AOTA public requirements. And I'm happy to entertain any questions, should there be some. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Victoria. Questions? Councillor Purcell?
More of a comment. I just wanted to thank Victoria. She's our administration expert for the Accessibility Advisory Committee. I think it just kind of goes to show that the City of Pembroke is looking at removing barriers for individuals so that they can access various different services and supports. You know, $7 million since over the last, how many years, I believe that was?
I believe it's 2006.
2006 is very impressive. So, you know, if we continue to pick at these, and I know that our CAO has been, you know, instrumental in terms of, you know, working with the department heads to see, you know, where possible that we can implement, you know, some of these efficiencies and opportunities to improve enhancement to our facilities. So, and services. So I do think it's great. My only caution is that, you know, we do still see in terms of that list that there are some activities and upgrades or recommendations from back in 2003. So, I know I'd like to kind of get some of those closed out, but again, those cost dollars. So we look at opportunities whenever we partner, whenever there is remodeling or renovations going on, that we can include some of these accessible items in the cost in terms of the revitalization. So again, thank you. I appreciate your support for all you've done for our committee this year. So thank you.
Any more questions or comments? Yes, sorry. Go ahead, Victoria.
Thank you, Chair. So through you, in one last comment, I've been chatting with the CAO and other managers just to ensure we're actually capturing all of those dollars. Instead of looking at this after we do the tours each year, I'm going to be bringing it on a bi-monthly basis to our managerial meetings. So it can be top of mind for all the managers, and I'm going to create like an other section, because right now we're looking at it from the scope of everything that's been identified in the plan. But, you know, I heard earlier with Director DeRoche and Ms. Granger that, you know, there was an accessible swing added. Well, that wasn't actually identified by the committee, so therefore it's not actually captured. So I'm thinking of doing just an additional appendice to say other, so it does show that we're being proactive and, you know, we're going after those grant dollars and just to capture it a little more correctly.
Councillor Keel?
So just to that point, do we send out these lists to the departments for them to self-audit at all, to try and capture those kinds of things?
That's a very good question, and through you, Chair, Councillor Keel. So as the current process stands now, as it was inherited, and still getting my, you know, year around the bend with all the processes, it comes once a year. So by bringing it to the manager meetings bi-monthly, it will be, you know, on an agenda item, and we can review it quickly, and it can be top of mind, and we can update as we go and identify potential grants too.
And that top of mind part from our whole city establishment would be top level.
Councillor Jackno?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Victoria, have you had any comment or any input from the public? I noticed these, they're like a small car. They're not as big as a Volkswagen Beetle, but they're motorized and they on the sidewalk and they pull in front of the bank. And if they're traveling on a sidewalk and there's a person in a single open, you know, handicap accessibility vehicle, the two of them cannot pass on the sidewalk. And like, they're fairly large. I know they're probably allowed under the provincial mandate, but have you had any complaints or anybody speak to you about that issue?
Yes, thank you for the question, Councillor Jackno, and through you, Chair. Those are, legislatively speaking, from what I've encountered in Pembroke and a previous municipality I worked for, they're really hard to classify. They're not necessarily a vehicle, they're not necessarily a bike, or they're an assistive device. So it's kind of difficult to say that they're not allowed on sidewalks, but then they're not necessarily fit for roads. However, they go really fast, so they can be a challenge for pedestrians. I have a ongoing conversation with a member of the OPP who is helping me walk through the legislation, because the answer is, from what I've seen, is they're challenging to navigate.
Thank you.
Further questions? Deputy Mayor?
Motion to approve the annual accessibility status report.
Okay, motion to approve. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Jackno. Further comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Approved. Thank you very much. And again, Clerk Charbonneau, 2026 Council and Committee meeting schedule.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So, as usual, bringing forward the 2026 Council and Committee meeting schedule. And I do apologize, the recommendation should reflect that it's Parks and Rec Committee, not the Finance and Administration. As usual, we bring forward this schedule for public acknowledgement and information, and also just to list out our committee dates and meetings. They do fall within our procedural bylaw, and they're outlined there in section 6, and it just says essentially that we hold our meetings on regular standing committees and council meetings on the first and third Tuesdays of each month, and then in addition special council meetings as they're held. So in the attachment, it's just a list as our committee structure stands now with our regular council meetings. A little bit different for 2026 because it is an election year. So we do have the last meeting being held in October prior to our October 26th election day. And then you will see a council meeting inaugural scheduled for November 17th. And then we carry on with our schedule. Special meetings will be called for orientation training, so on and so forth as they're flushed out. But just wanted to bring this to the public's and committee's attention for review and approval.
Councillor Purcell.
Thanks again, Victoria. I move that that the committee appoint the deputy mayor as chair for the July and August combined meetings, and that we approve the 2025 council and committee meeting schedule as presented.
Motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by the mayor. All in favor? Questions? Oh, sorry. Any questions or further comments? Councillor Keel.
So I know the election and whatnot obviously plays into consideration, but the inaugural meeting is basically just not much going on. Do we really think we're going to get through the month of November without a regular council meeting?
So
Like, we can barely get through the summer with one meeting a month, and now we're taking basically the 2 substantive meetings out of November. I don't know, I question whether we would really be able to get away with that, but I take staff's advice on it.
yes, thank you for the question, Councillor Keelan, through you, Chair. I was basing this based on the schedule that was done prior to elections last time, and I think if it stands now, and if we do need to call a special meeting after inaugural, because you are correct, it essentially is a formality, and we sign papers, and we don't really deal with business per se. If there are pressing matters, we can call a special meeting to deal with those.
Question from the chair, though. If the election is October 26th, the old council still is in power until inaugural night? Is that it? I guess so. Okay.
Yes, that is
Clarifying.
correct.
I've
The
never
new-
been in that kind of a limbo position.
Yes, you are
Okay,
correct.
thank you. Okay, now I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, great. Okay, that brings our agenda adjournment. Motion to adjourn, moved by the mayor, seconded by deputy mayor. All in favor? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Evening, everyone. I wish to call this council meeting to order for December 16th. I would ask those who wish to please stand for an opening prayer or reflection. Before opening this meeting of council, I would ask those who wish, each in your own way, silently join in a prayer of guidance over these proceedings. Thank you. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest in relation to the items on this council meeting agenda? Seeing none. Minutes, we have a number to work through this evening. So approval of minutes from a council meeting, regular meeting in council December 2nd. Moved by Councillor Plummer, seconded by Councillor Lafreniere. Those in favor? That is carried. We have adoption of minutes from committees. We have one this evening, Parks and Recreation Committee, November 18th, moved by Councillor Plummer, seconded by Councillor Keel. Those in favor? Carried. Last but not least is receiving minutes from local boards, and we have the Ottawa Valley Waste Management Board, October 9th, 2025, moved by Councillor Plummer, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Those in favor? That is carried. Moving ahead to staff and committee reports, we have Councillor Plummer, purchase of pumper rescue fire truck.
Thank you, Worship. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Jacquinot, that council approves award of the supply delivery of one new pumper rescue fire truck, Commercial Emergency Equipment Co. in the amount of $1,410,393.60, with the $138,585 of the funds coming from the General Capital Reserve, and the balance being funded from the Fire Department Fleet Reserve.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Plummer and seconded by Councillor Jacquinot. That council approves the award of a supply and delivery of one new pumper rescue fire truck to Commercial Emergency Equipment Co. in the amount of $1,410,393.60, with $138,585 of the funds coming from General Capital Reserve and the balance coming to be funded from the Fire Department Fleet Reserve. Councillor Plummer, did you wish to speak to it?
This was in committee earlier. There's a frontline piece of equipment for fire safety in the city of Pembroke. It is a very expensive item, but it is projected to last for 15 years of active service and 5 years additional in reserve.
Thank you. Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Next is under, there's no proclamations this evening. Under bylaws, we have 2025-90 amendment of Fire Department fees. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Ed Jacquinot, that bylaw 2025-90, a bylaw to establish fees and charges on persons for payment of municipal services, activities, and use of municipal property for the city of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further, that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moved by the Deputy Mayor and seconded by Councillor Jacquinot that bylaw 2025-90, a bylaw to establish fees and charges on persons for payment of municipal services, activities, and use of municipal property for the city of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further that said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. These fees outlined in Schedule E of bylaw 2025-90 are intended to recover costs associated with non-tax supported services. This updated schedule will allow the fire department to utilize the indemnification technology program through Fire Marquee. Once again, the updated fees will serve to strengthen the city's future financial sustainability and support cost recovery efforts of the fire department, lessening the burden on the ratepayers.
Thank you. Call the question. Those in favor? Against? Carried. Next is 2025-92 financial agreement with SPCA. Councillor Jacquinot.
Thank you, Your Worship. Members of Council, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Purcell, that bylaw 2025-92 being a bylaw to authorize the Corporation of the City of Pembroke to enter into an agreement with the Ontario Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals to provide pound keeping services to the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation, waiting your signature, Your Worship.
you. Moved by Councillor Giacono, seconded by Councillor Purcell. The bylaw 2025-92, a bylaw to authorize the corporation of the City of Pembroke to enter into an agreement with the Ontario Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals to provide pound keeping services to the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Giacono.
Your worship, members of council, this was discussed at a previous Planning and Development Committee meeting, and it's for information, and council will vote on it. Thank you.
Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Next is 2025-93, Sydenham Street Assumption. Councillor Keel.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Lafreniere, that bylaw 2025-93, a bylaw to assume Sydenham Street in the City of Pembroke, be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Keel and seconded by Councillor Lafreniere that bylaw 2025-93, a bylaw to assume Sydenham Street in the City of Pembroke, be adopted and passed, and further said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Keel.
Your worship, this is essentially a housekeeping matter. A number of years ago, development agreements were entered into with a company to establish the Sydenham Street to Melton Street, and granting the city an easement and other such matters. All the work has been completed, so it is now time for the city to assume the street.
Thank you. Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. The last bylaw for this evening is financial agreement with the PBIA. Councillor Purcell.
Thank you, Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Giacono that bylaw 2025-94, a bylaw to authorize the entering into an agreement between the Pembroke Business Improvement Area and the Corporation of the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Thank you. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Purcell and seconded by Councillor Giacono, that bylaw 2025-94, bylaw to authorize the entering into of an agreement between the Pembroke Business Improvement Area and the Corporation of the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Purcell.
This is a 2-year renewal of the PBIA financial agreement between the City of Pembroke and it results in a 5% increase for 2026 and a 5% increase for 2027. Thank you.
Good. Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. And then under motions, we have 2 motions this evening. The first one, Resolution 2025-12-19, Budget Amendments. Deputy Mayor.
Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Ed Giacono. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the City of Pembroke approves the 2026 budget decisions and amendments made by the Finance and Administration Committee and Treasurer as detailed in Schedule A and Schedule B attached.
Thank you. So I don't know if you wish to briefly speak to it, Deputy Mayor, and then I'm going to ask you to take the chair.
We made some motions at the day 1 and 2 of the budget meetings last week, and they were televised on YouTube live, and also it's recorded in the minutes that are posted on the city website.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, if you take the chair, please. Members of council, you've heard the motion. I'm making a motion to amend the motion that's before you to read as follows. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the City of Pembroke approves the 2026 budget decisions and amendments made by the Finance and Administration Committee and Treasurer as detailed in Schedule A, which is what you've already seen. Furthermore, that Schedule B, Resolution BD 25-12-13 be amended as follows. So this is what the amendment is. That is what is different. That the Finance and Administration Committee accept the 2026 draft operating and capital budget as revised with an overall levy increase after growth capped at 6.99%, with a levy cap funded by a transfer from levy stabilization reserve of $264,795, and the balance of the fund in the levy stabilization reserve to be transferred to the general capital reserve.
Motion on the floor. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Jacquinot. Discussion? Mayor?
If I may, Deputy Mayor. So I first want to just thank staff for indulging me in recent days to come up with the wording and to review this Schedule B, and so that it's clear. I take no issue with anything that is in Schedule B, with the one exception, which is the very last part, which is the levy being proposed or levy being increased. It's interesting, members of council. So this evening I came with my last year's budget and other different notes in terms of what it would mean in terms of dollar amounts and that sort of thing. And when I came in this evening, you never know what you're going to have in your mail slot, but there's a note. It says memo to the mayor, and it's interesting how some things turn out sometimes. And I just want to quickly read it. It's just a handwritten note, and I'm not trying to minimize, though. This is an individual that has chosen to write to me, and it's very important because it's regarding what I'm proposing in terms of an amendment this evening. To Mayor, everyone has a boss, even you. Someone needs to do something before 50% of Pembroke live behind beer store. Landlord don't seem to answer to anyone. Everyone is afraid they are next. Families are forced to take kids back. People living in their cars, renters live a hostage existence. I think it's telling, it's relevant. I know on day one, when, as we always do, there's comments provided by the chair, there's comments provided by the mayor in terms of the overall budget process. Let's be respectful of one another. I know the deputy mayor talks about motions through the chair, that sort of thing. But you'll recall that I said in day one, there is one taxpayer. There's only one person paying the taxes, all taxes. In addition to that, that there are certain individuals that are struggling. They're struggling in our community. They're struggling in terms of trying to make mortgage payments, to possibly, instead of mortgage payments, it's renting, it's buying food, and people are hurting. And so, and I'm not trying to, and I am not minimizing council in terms of, I know that every one of us around this table takes everything extremely seriously. We're trying to look at this year's budget. We're trying to look at future years. We're trying to figure out how are we going to finance different things, trying to put some money into reserves for different things. We're trying to accomplish a lot for a diverse group, I would say. Our residents are not homogeneous by any means. This council had the foresight, which is why I brought along last year's budget, to create this levy stabilization to try and level out some peaks and valleys, that sort of thing, putting $350,000 into it at that time, and then when we had the accumulated surplus, to put some additional dollars in there that brings us to the number that we were talking about earlier, which is something like $510,000. So, I can think back to previous years, not as far back. Earlier we were celebrating Councillor Lafreniere time on council, but I can think back to a time when we'd have a surplus and we would say as a council, okay, so what are we going to do? Like, what project are we going to do? And it was, no, how about we create this something called a general capital reserve? And how about we put money into this general capital reserve? Because let's face it, capital in the city of Pembroke, like most municipalities, is the biggest thing that drives a lot of expenditures. And so we started putting money in there. things change, as was pointed out earlier this evening. Things changed in terms of where our focus is and our needs, our demands, and so forth. And we started creating other reserves, and I don't begrudge that. We started creating reserves for, I think 2 years ago was transit, because there was a pilot project that was about to be underway. We created one for a possible recreation complex and so forth. But we created this levy stabilization to try and take out some peaks and valleys. And all I'm saying is that if there's something that we can do to try and minimize the burden on taxpayers who are already suffering, then what can we do? And so again, I appreciate staff's time in terms of speaking with them to say, okay, so what does it mean if we're reducing it by this? What is the dollar amount? Where can it come from? And looking at the rate stabilization, and then as part of that discussion generated, the fire department wishes to purchase a vehicle, and so now we're taking money out of the general capital reserve, and so can we somehow prop up that one? I know that early on when we talked about this levy stabilization, I remember specifically saying, because I know some members of council were asking, well, are you just going to try and put money in there and leave it in there forever? No, at least in speaking for myself, if you can put some money in there on a given year when the surplus happens, so that again, then you go into the next budget cycle and it takes out some peaks or valleys, but it isn't my thought that we're going to put in $1 million into a levy stabilization and leave it there forever. And so you know, in speaking with staff in terms of, well, can we put some into the general capital reserve? We know that year after year there's a surplus. I'm grateful that it's always a surplus, not a deficit. And you know, the council and staff do their best to try and figure out how much monies are needed on a given year. We know certain projects don't go for one reason or another. It could be that we didn't get grants or what have you, and so then there's an accumulated surplus, and then we go back to the to council to say, okay, where do those dollars go? But I know that we all understand that monies come from way of grants. Some aren't grant applications, they're OCIF, they're UMP funding, you know, that sort of monies. There's user fees, and then there's tax dollars. And so, but at the end of the day, when I look back over the last number of years and just different people, this is just one, just chatting with different individuals, and they're saying to me, you know, Ron, eventually we're going to leave the city or we're selling our house. We're just not going to pay the taxes. And I recognize in the Municipal Act there's a process, and the city can, after 2 years, put in the certificate and so forth and start taking people's properties. But I don't think that that's what we're trying to do either. Yes, we're trying to efficiently run the municipality as best as we can, and we need dollars to make that happen. But at the same token, there's an ability to pay. And so in any event, so this is my motion to amend what the deputy mayor has brought forward. Anyways, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Gervais. Councillor Jagino, would you like to speak to that? Your seconder?
I will, thank you, Mr. Chair. I wholeheartedly have to agree with the mayor on this one. I don't always agree with him in principle. I mean, but it is rather tragic what's happening to our economy. I mean, if you're in the food store today, I was there yesterday and I followed a woman with a threadbare jacket with a child with holes in her boots and a coat that had all kinds of holes in it. And she's shopping. I mean, 5 years ago, you just throw the cereal in the cart. You'd put the chocolate in there, and you'd you pick up a pound of butter that was $1.99, which is now $9, and you'd carry on. You could feed your family. And today, yesterday, I noticed her. She looked at every item to see not only the amount that she was buying, but the price. It's heartbreaking. You know, meat has gone up 17% in the last year. You bought a steak last year, you know, you could pick one up for $8.99. Nice steak at Metro or wherever you're buying it. A lot of those steaks are more than that. They're $29 for a T-bone. Take a look. I mean, it's reality. It's not, I'm not making it up. The other night, my wife said, well, let's just have some hot dogs tonight for supper. You know, okay. Get the jumbo Schneiders. Sure. $14.99. You know, I bought a turkey for 99 cents a pound. So what am I going to buy? $14.99 hot dogs or a turkey? You know, and I think most families do that today. Bread, a basic item for sandwiches and luncheons, you know, for children. A pound of butters, you know, something to put on that sandwich. It's tragic. And everywhere you look, you know, there are organizations such as CPAN. They're providing jackets for children. I know the Knights of Columbus, they probably spent $9,000 buying coats for children that they distribute to CPAN in schools. And as soon as they get them, they're gone. You know, because parents cannot afford it. And the reason you have a reserve is for a rainy day. And I believe this budget, we've encountered a rainy day. And until things get better, you know, are we gonna be the straw that breaks the taxpayers' back? And I mean, people usually don't complain, but you hear it everywhere. You see it. You see it in the grocery store. You know, it's just we are living in a land of luxury, but not everybody has the ability to have the luxury of just picking up what they want in the grocery store and putting it in their basket. Thank you.
Councillor Purcell.
Thanks, Chair. I put my resident hat on, and I wholeheartedly understand in terms of the pressures that people are experiencing when it comes to cost of living and including the levy increases. My only concern, I'm going to put my councillor hat on, making sure that we have smoother opportunities in the future. You know, we've depleted the police reserve. It's $0. We depleted the fire equipment reserve. It's $0 now. Now we're going to deplete the levy stabilization and put a little bit that's left over in terms of the general capital reserve. My warning to the taxpayers is don't get duped in a budget before election year. I want to make sure we're doing this for the right purposes. Don't come back next year with an 10 or 11% rate increase because it's year one after the election. Let's be honest. We put these dollars away for a purpose. Yes, in terms of stabilizing the levy, but you depleted all the reserves. For that reason, I understand the hardships that our residents are under, but I can't support that. Because you know what's going to happen next year? When you have increased rates when it comes to the OPP, where are you going to get those dollars from? You depleted all the reserves. You need a new fire truck. God only knows what other activities happen, and you only got $300,000 in capital reserve. That's what they're there for, stabilization. Do you think this is a rainy day? What happens when it's sleet and snow next year? And what are those rates going to be next year? I want this council to consider. I may not be around this table. More than likely won't be. But I will hold you guys accountable for the rate increases next year. Don't dupe people, okay? It's really important that we pay for what we get. The cost of services have gone up tremendously. If that's the case, then let's get real about it this year and do less with less. That means our residents have to do with less services, and we can reduce those operating costs. If that's what we want to do, then that's what we want to do. But by depleting the reserves and then saying, oh, we've got a little bit of money in the levy stabilization fund, but we know that there's going to be excess spending beyond in 2026 based on our treasurer, and we're not putting enough dollars into everything. And what does this relate to? I'm going to ask the treasurer, 6.99% compared to the 7.89. What is the difference for household on a monthly basis?
So through the chair, I don't have it monthly. I guess I could estimate it, but for the annual impact of decreasing it from 7.89% to 6.99%. Originally, the impact to the average resident was $268 a year, and this will reduce it by $31 to $238 a year.
So does that $2 a month, $2.50 a month?
Roughly, yeah.
$2.50 a month to deplete all our reserves. No further comment.
Lafreniere.
These conversations were around the table many moons ago as well, when we were putting in 0% increases, 1% increases. We are responsible to provide fire protection, police, roads, water, sewer. We're partners with the county on certain things like paramedics, health, homes for the aged, social services. Extra things, library, the new rec facility we're looking at that we have large dollars in a reserve for. We could close a rink. I mean, those are things we could do. But the basics are, right now we're running everything, and I agree with Councillor Purcell. At what point is it really going to fall apart? You have to decide what services are we supposed to provide our residents with, and which ones are luxury. Now, we can have pools, we can have rinks, we can have all kinds of things. But if the residents can't even afford to put their kids in, number one, swimming lessons or hockey, it's very expensive to put kids in hockey. I've been fortunate that my husband and I have always had a good job. We could pay. We're retired now, and now next year I probably won't be on council, so my pay is going down too. And yes, I will be looking closer at my grocery bill as well. But like, we have all these wonderful facilities that we're pumping money into, and how many of our residents can't afford it anymore? I mean, you know, that's what we got to look at. So maybe it's time to really pull back and look at what we need to provide, and then maybe trim back on the things that they're luxury items. I mean, it's the privileged people in our community now, like most of us around the table, that are allowed, that can afford to use those facilities. So maybe it's time to look at that. And I mean, I'm the chair of rec, but like, I agree with Councillor Purcell, as a resident, if I couldn't afford those things, I'd be really upset that you're pouring millions and millions of dollars into things that my kids would never be able to go to anyway. So I understand about putting the tax rate down, but we got to make another decision. We can't keep robbing the facilities that we need to maintain in order to have other things that we maybe don't really need. We want, but we don't need.
Councillor Keel.
How much is in the stabilization reserve?
Through the chair, so currently there's a balance of $510,246.09.
And how much of that would we use for the first part of the motion?
So the first part of the motion is we would use $246,795. So that would leave roughly $263,451 remaining.
Well, now you answered my next question. So what would then be in the general reserve?
So if we transferred it to so if we use part of it as per the recommendation and we transferred the balance to the general capital reserve, the general capital would be increased to $703,272.
And remind me from budget, do we know yet where we're paying the 2024 OPP adjustment from?
Right now, the assumption is that I'll use the $50,000 that's in the OPP reserve in 2024, not originally how we had planned it in 2025, and the balance would come from just general departmental reserves.
And how much, that was 400 and some thousand?
Yeah, so it's over 400,000.
Okay. This is one of those times I'm on both sides of the fence, and it depends what I'm thinking about. So I certainly, contrary to Councillor Purcell, I don't like the idea of holding money in a stabilization fund forever and ever and ever, because we did take that we took that out of the taxpayer's pocket. Part of the levy stabilization, I think in last year's budget, I think there was money that was going to go to the 200th anniversary that I think Councillor Purcell, you instead put into the levy stabilization fund. And then we've put a few $100,000 in out of our surplus from 2024. So I guess my problem is in my head, and I'm just talking out loud now because we're not going to have a break to think about this, is the surplus money we took from the taxpayer last year. And that was not an easy year. That in fact last year was, I think, what was their increase last year? 8.9 or 8.9, I think, last year. And last year we said, well, what if the OPP next year comes in? So I have a problem saying, well, let's keep holding that money because maybe next year the OPP will come in again. I mean, how long are we going to hold money that we already taxed the people before we actually use it? So that's my one concern about not using the levy stabilization fund, is because that's money that someone could be buying groceries with. They could have bought the groceries last year because that's where the money came from. So I do take issue with us just continuing to sit on the people's money when there's no place for it. We have other reserves, and I agree with Councillor Purcell that, I created the new rec reserve. I have been very pro-reserve this entire term when we're putting the money away for things that we know we're going to be using. There is potential that next year we get another 7, 8, 9% budget increase, and we could still then say again, well, what about the year after? We can always say, what about the year after? I mean, we keep picking on Councillor Lafreniere. She's been here 25 years. There's been a lot of years after. And I agree with Councillor Purcell. There's certainly, it feels, as someone that I think is going to run for re-election, you get that feeling of, well, let's do something good this year. And it's not just at this level. The province does it. The feds do it. We all know those pre-election budgets. I mean, it happens. It's innate to the situation. But to Councillor Giacono's point is people are currently struggling. So is that not the point of the levy stabilization? Is it going to get worse? Is it going to get better? I remember at the height of COVID watching a show where they basically said that in terms of the entire processing of the stuff we buy, from the point when it's growing somewhere to it being manufactured to the store shelf, it's like a 5-year period. The toilet paper that you're using at home today wasn't manufactured yesterday. That process started a long time ago in terms of planting the trees and doing everything from start to finish. So are we about to get to the end of it? Well, maybe we were, and then we got a president down in our neighboring state that kind of, just as our inflation was actually coming down. I mean, we've all seen the graphs. It peaked at about 7, 8, and then it started coming down, and now all of a sudden it's bouncing around depending on somebody's given mood while he's texting on the toilet. But I just don't know that I want to take that person's $31 this year that actually came from last year and hold it again till next year. But the reserves are certainly a problem, and I feel like we're actually, I don't want to be a doomsday person here, but I don't think it's getting any better. I mean, if we just look at the pool situation, however many years ago, a local club could afford to build a pool. 2018, I think a new pool was going to be 23 million. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And then all of a sudden it's 44 million. So part of the reason I wanted to look at a new sportsplex is to say that if we wait another 25 years, we might not even be able to remotely afford a building, because all these things are getting more and more out of our grasp. I even think of my own grandfather. At one point in time, he and Nanny were able to purchase a cottage on the river. He was a soldier, and she worked at MBI. I can tell you right now, no soldier and person working in a box factory can afford a cottage. I can't afford a cottage, and I'm a lawyer. They're like $500,000 starting price. Everything is just getting more and more expensive compared to the money we can raise. And you know, the mayor talks about there being one taxpayer. It's kind of funny, because when I hear the premier say there's only one taxpayer, I agree with him, but I think in a different way than he does, because even those grants that we're getting, well, those are funded by taxpayers. They're funded by provincial taxes or federal taxes that get transferred to the province so they can transfer us money. So we are all in the same boat, but everything's getting more expensive. Everything is moving towards being unattainable. And then the last comment that I want to make is last year at Roma, after we set our 8.9, I think we said it was, I was talking to a lot of other councillors from across Ontario, because it was in January, we were in budget, and I was kind of trying to get a feel for things. So I'm talking to other councillors saying, you know, geez, we just had an 8.9% increase, like, what did you do? I talked to certainly a dozen or more other councillors. The fact that we were at 8.9 and in single digits, nobody else was. Every person I talked to was actually in double digits last year. Now, it doesn't help our taxpayer, but it just goes to show you that things can be worse, which I think is what Councillor Purcell is getting at, and I believe him. That possibility, I think we all trust that that possibility could be true. None of us can predict the future. And now at this point, since I've been talking for probably 10 minutes and the deputy mayor hasn't cut me off, I'm going to agree with the mayor's motion, simply because I feel like I'm on the fence, and his motion straddles the fence. We're giving less than a 1% tax break to the residents this year. We're moving the money to the general reserve, which I think Madam Treasurer would agree with me that we can always move that around if we need it for other things or if we have a shortfall. So the money is still going to reserve. The bulk of the money, I think, I think the bulk of the money, however, well, it's basically, I guess, what's splitting in half, 246, leaving 263. So I'm going to agree with it simply because while talking for 10 minutes, I haven't changed my mind that I'm kind of on the fence, and the mayor's motion kind of puts some money back in reserve and gives some money back to the people who gave us this money 2 years ago and last year. So that's where I'm going to be with that one. Sorry, Your Deputy Worship.
Deputy. Okay, so I'll speak and then we'll vote on it. I could go either way on this motion. We are with 2% levy per year is recommended by the treasurer because we're behind the gap, $4 million a year in capital. So in the years going forward, we have to put in 2% a year to catch up down the road, streets, facilities, everything. It's a tough one. We had a water break. It's going to cost $450,000 to $600,000 out of reserves for the water fund, which is separate from general taxes. I've always said, and I'll repeat it again, AMO, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, have written to the province. They've talked to them. They're trying to get them to sit down with the task force to redevelop the funding model. We cannot keep having these tax increases on the backs of the taxpayer. And we're not the only community that's doing this. I read about one, I think it was Smith Falls or Carleton Place budget. They had a less than 2% increase, but they deferred a whole bunch of projects. And the asset management plan says you have to have assets in fair to good condition. And we know from the auditor's report tonight, we're at a not a break-even point, but we're at a point where we got to keep our assets in fairly good condition. And fortunately, the Miramichi Lodge debenture will be paid off at the end of the year. then we'll put that into the ice pad and boards at the Pem Ice too. But when you're talking to residents and you say 7.89 and you say 2.76 is for the county, we have no control over that. 0.76 for the OPP, we have no control over that. Social services, societal changes and challenges have increased the shared services that the county manages for us. But when you tell them it's a 7.98, it's a psychological thing. You know, it might be the difference of $30-some a month. That's on a house based at what, 285 assessment? 185. Most homes in Pembroke are assessed at over, 300,000, some at 400,000. So that's more money, right? And as Councillor Keel says, the levy was the tax levy, 1% increase for the taxpayer, give it back to them. So we have the 2% levy capital increase, which has to be done for the following years. It's like our water rate to invest at 5-point-something% for a number of years, so we can, keep the water and sewer rates, the system affordable, and there's a liability and safety issue with all these things. So I'm going to support the motion, and we're going to Roma, the Rural Ontario Municipal Association, in January, and we have a delegation about OPP costing. Hopefully we'll get more delegation, and we're going to be aggressive and tell them that, listen, we can't keep doing this. The province has more revenue streams than us, sales tax and transfer tax. All we have is the taxpayer. So I'm going to support the motion. So can you read the motion again, please? The amendment, yeah. Go ahead.
So Deputy Mayor, it's be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the City of Pembroke approves the 2026 budget decisions and amendments made by the Finance and Administration Committee and Treasurer as detailed in Schedule A. And furthermore, that Schedule B, Resolution BD 25-12-13 be amended as follows. That the Finance and Administration Committee accept the 2026 draft operating and capital budgets as revised with an overall levy increase after growth capped at 6.99%, with a levy cap funded by a transfer from levy stabilization reserve of $264,795, and the balance of the funding in the levy stabilization reserve transferred to the general capital reserve.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Giacono. Those in favor of the amendment? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those opposed? The amendment carries. Now we'll vote on the original resolution. Any discussion on the original resolution? Call the question. Those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. Okay. What's that? Oh, vote on the main motion as amended. Those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those opposed? 2 opposed. Carried. I'll return the floor to the Mayor, Gervais.
The next motion is Resolution 2025-12-20, approval of the 2024 audited consolidation financial statements. Councillor Giacono.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Purcell. Be it resolved that the Corporation of the City of Pembroke approve the audited consolidated financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2024 is presented and awaiting your signature.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Giacono, seconded by Councillor Purcell. Be it resolved that the Corporation of the City of Pembroke approve the audited consolidated financial statements for the year ending December 31st, 2024 as presented. Councillor Giacono.
Your Worship, as was indicated under the CSA 600 new audit system, there's been more communication. The municipality is not in a dire strait. It still has, certain amounts of reserves to continue on with the business, and that what I heard is we're not in bad condition. Thank you.
You call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. There's no correspondence this evening. Under Mayor's Report, good evening, everyone. I wish to bring forward my Mayor's Report at this time. Regarding invitations, appearances, and other matters, on December 3rd, I attended the 9th Annual Coldest Night of the Year fundraiser kickoff. The goal this year is $115,000 as it was last year. The grind is not government funded, and it's through the generosity of the public that makes their services possible. On December 6th, I attended the National Day of Remembrance and Action on Violence event held by the Bernadette McCann House here in Pembroke. It was a truly motivating and moving remembrance. Not only did we recognize the 14 women who were senselessly killed at École Polytechnique in 1989, but we were also recognizing 43 women in Ontario in 2025 that died senselessly. All of their names were put on a overhead projector so that we could observe the loss of these lives of these women and young girls. This truly is not getting better, and I would endeavor to work with the CAO and the Bernadette McCann House to see what our municipality can do to end senseless violence against girls and women. December 9th, the fire chief and I attended the wake after the budget meeting that day of first-class firefighter Ottawa Matthew Marcel Deschênes of Laurentian Valley. This is certainly a hard blow to all first responders, to the families and friends, and received a personal invite to attend with the fire chief, and so I did attend with him. December 12th, I had the pleasure of meeting with Heather Job of the OSPCA to have a tour and to discuss how the city can advocate for the OSPCA and for issues such as shortages of veterinarians and vet techs in our area. As I learned, it's very similar to the lack of physicians for humans is, so you have RPNs and you have other individuals entering into in the province recognizing that there's a shortfall and allowing pharmacists to issue certain medications without prescriptions and so forth. And so too, the issue is the same with our pets. We know that in the local area, I know of one particular vet that desperately wants to retire and just seemingly doesn't have the ability, and I know that Councillor Keel often talks about it's not just the physicians, it's lawyers, it's other professions, and this particular case, it was an eye-opener about veterinarians. And to other matters, I want to first acknowledge and congratulate Warden Murphy for being elected as the new warden of the County of Renfrew. We look forward to working with her and the entire County Council in 2025. Thank you to former Warden Emo for tirelessly being an advocate not only for the county but the city alike. He's been extremely inclusive of the city as we work together for common goals of the ratepayer of the county and the city by including us in many initiatives, including but not limited to the Highway 17 initiative and others. Lastly, just wanted to take a moment. I know that different individuals have been asking me for statistics, and I just didn't have it with me. Statistics in respect to the Pembroke and Laurentian Valley Handy Bus as your representative there. So in November, the 2025 November stats were 898 rides, and in 2024 it was 626, which is an increase, if my math is correct, 272 ride increase. Further, I just wanted to clarify, so while I was not at day 2 of the budget, I certainly did watch the entire budget proceedings, and there were some questions in respect to buses and purchasing it. So the city of Pembroke has always allowed the handy bus to use its procurement process to procure buses, utilizing the gas tax funds that comes to the handy bus to purchase those buses. So it's not ratepayer funds purchasing it, at least not ratepayers in terms of the city of Pembroke, but ratepayers in terms of gas tax funds being accumulated. So I just wanted to point that out to make sure that that was clarified. Lastly, I want to take this opportunity as the last meeting of this 2025 to wish all of council, all of staff, and all the residents at home a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and we'll see you in 2026. In respect to notices of motion, there is one there which I am withdrawing. Bringing us to councillor updates. Is there any councillor updates this evening? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. On December 5th, Mary and I attended the Pembroke 50 Plus Active Living Centre 50th Gala at the Legion. We want to thank Sheila Moeller, Connie Ball, and the organizing committee for decorating the hall and organizing the event. It was a sold-out event. We want to thank every member of the Active Living Centre. We want to congratulate them, and we want to thank all seniors in Pembroke for building the community for what it is today. Attended the Boys and Girls Club Renfrew County breakfast on December 6th with Santa. Got to meet Santa. It's a fundraiser spearheaded by Ronina Gardner, and we got to meet many individuals, and they had a rush of children at the beginning. It was amazing. And I got to meet Steve and Julie finally from No Frills, amazing community supporters. Finally got to meet them. And there were some Kawanians there. Mr. Busky and Mr. Jay McLaren were there. And Santa Claus was there, and I hear that he likes to eat at Law and Order's Burgers. So he did a good job too. This past Saturday, we were at, as other councillors were at, HGTV Hometown Renovation Video Promotion. Councillor Purcell was in the back. He's very tall, so that was an advantage for us. And we made it to round 3. Then did some videos outside. And Taste of the Valley, very, very busy. We want to thank Renfrew County and the organizing committee and everybody, the vendors and everything. And there was another craft show on, I didn't go to it, but I saw the crowd on Facebook. It's a lineup outside, headed by Krista Cleese, does this every year at the Germania Club. Actually does other craft shows. So we want to thank the organizers and vendors for providing this service to the local residents so they can buy local, and you get a lot of neat gifts at these craft shows. On last Saturday, I attended the seniors Christmas concert. Had the pleasure of introducing Louis Schreier and friends for a 1-hour performance. The seniors loved it. He did 3 on Friday, and they did 4 on the Saturday. So 7 shows in 2 days, and it's very well received, and everybody loved it. Speaking of transit, we had a transit committee meeting, and very happy to report that in October there were 1,740 rides, and the consultant has told us we need 1,200 to 1,700 to be successful, deemed successful. And in November we had 1,919 rides, and the treasurer will become a full 6-month report down the road. So that's great. We have transit for everyone in Pembroke, and it's really great that the handy bus is up too. I think that's about it, and I also want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Plummer?
Thank you. I'm just going to do I'm here representative on Ottawa River Power Corporation, and they gave me a nice just kind of year in review. Just kind of give up an update here. So good evening. As a council representative to Ottawa River Power and Board of Directors, I'm pleased to provide an update on utilities performance over the past year. Ottawa River Power serves more than 11,800 customers across the 4 service territories and continues to demonstrate strong results in safety, reliability, and customer service. Ottawa River Power delivered strong customer service results. Representatives answered nearly 95% of calls within 30 seconds, well above the provincial average of 65%, and 99% of the scheduled appointments were on time. Most recent customer satisfaction surveys show that 84% rating, up 5 points from 2023. Safety remains utility's highest priority. Ottawa River Power reported 0 serious electrical incidents and maintains a full compliance with the provincial safety regulations. System reliability was exceptional. The average customer experienced less than 1 hour in interrupted power, well below the provincial target of 2.59 hours, with the greatest contribution of outages being a loss of supply events. When the March ice storm caused widespread damage across eastern Ontario, the utilities infrastructure held firm with no significant customer impacts. Ottawa River Power Also dispatch crews to assist Hydro One with restoring efforts in neighborhoods and communities. Ottawa Power invested $30.2 million in capital improvements, including 49 pole replacements, 25 transformer upgrades, and substation mobilization projects. The multi-year Highway 148 relocation was completed, involving 600 meters of new pole and line construction. Beyond system renewal, the utility engineered and delivered approximately 98 customer service-driven projects, including infill lots, service upgrades, and commercial and residential developments. A significant environmental initiative was also undertaken. The utility tested over 550 transformers across the service territories as part of the PCB removal program, identifying and removing units exceeding acceptable thresholds to comply with federal and provincial mandates. Significant upgrades to two Pembroke substations improved remote monitoring and control capabilities. The utility was also continuous to fleet modernization efforts, adding the third electric vehicle to its service fleet, along with additional charging infrastructure in Pembroke Operations Center. Looking ahead, Ottawa Power has applied for significant federal funding for a smart grid mobilization as part of a consortium of 15 local distribution companies across Ontario. If successful, this initiative would bring millions of dollars of advanced fault detection and automated switching capabilities to all service territories. Ottawa Power staff participate in several community infrastructure initiatives throughout the year. At the Option Skilled Trades Fair, crews set up hands-on demonstrations of electrical distribution equipment, giving students the opportunity to explore the power line technician trade. And Ottawa Power maintained a position in Ontario Energy Board's most efficient cost category for the third consecutive years. Residential customers pay approximately 7% less than the provincial average, ranking ORPC as the fifth lowest among Ontario's 54 distributors. Ottawa Power remains focused on continuing to deliver safe, reliable service, where creating a value for shareholders and communities it serves. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bonner. Councillor Q?
So, Your Worship, December is always a busy month. I was happy to attend the Pembroke Night Market Christmas edition on Thursday night, located in our beautiful downtown, and it is every Thursday night from 4 to 8 p.m., and it's where the Santa Fe Church Street Flowers was, so in that first block just by the bridge. So that, again, is every Thursday from now until Christmas. On December 13th, many of us were obviously at the Taste of the Valley, and of course we want to support the HDTV hometown takeover, which Pembroke is now in round 3, so it would be certainly great if we could get through and be the chosen city. On the 14th, which I think was Sunday, there was the Christmas in the Valley vendor market at the Germania Hall that the Deputy Mayor spoke about. Again, this is another market put on by Valley Markets and Krista Cleach. Very thankful for the effort she puts in. You know, these crafters and other individuals put so much time into their work, and one of their main methods of sales are these markets. So it's great that we now have the Pembroke Night Markets in the summer. We now have Christmas edition, and then we had her Christmas in the Valley vendor market. After the Germania Hall, I drove down the highway to our neighbor, Petawawa, for the 5th annual Soup Off. This is put on by Liam Poirier, and money from the Soup Off was raised for the OSPCA. This was a really interesting event. It was $20. You go in, there was, I think there was, now I don't want to say the number. There were so many soups. I feel like there was like 60 or something. Like it was a lot of soup, a lot of really good tasting soups, and then you vote at the end. Some of the prizes were absolutely spectacular. I think this year I think one of the prizes was a $2,500 gift certificate for travel. There was a snowmobile. There were door prizes for everybody that attended. So certainly I would recommend that everybody try the Soup Off. And I will say, I put in a plug and I said, Liam, why don't you bring one to Pembroke? That would be nice up here. After the Soup Off, I then drove back to Pembroke to go to Festival Hall, where Canine Circus's Dogs Do Magic was at Festival Hall, a canine Christmas. Lots of kids in attendance. This was a really fantastic event. They're local here in Ontario. They're doing, they have a number of different shows. This was their Christmas one. While we're on the topic of Festival Hall, tomorrow night, Wayne Rostad is in town with Christmas in the Valley. There are some seats left, not many, but there are still some seats. I think the deputy mayor is going, if I'm correct. And then on Thursday, there's Les Chiclettes en attendant Noël. It's a French performance. I'm not sure when the last time we had a French performance put on by our festival hall. There are tickets available for that. I would certainly encourage everyone to attend. And your worship, if you're wondering what's going on in 2026, there are already 26 shows on the festival hall calendar on festivalhall.ca. There's others in the pipeline that I'm aware of, so that number's only going to increase. But already, if you go online, you will find 26 different show nights on Festival Hall. And I can also now tell you that we have formally approved the purchase of a new lighting system valued at, I believe it's $58,000. And the French Public School Board is paying for half of that. The school board is a wonderful partner with us at Festival Hall. They take care of a lot of the maintenance. We lease it, but they take care of a lot of the day-to-day maintenance work. This past year, the relationship has been absolutely fabulous, fantastic. Throw in whatever word you like, as long as it's positive. But this has really been a great year for our relationship with the school board, and we certainly thank them for that kind contribution. And then, Your Worship, if I may, since it is the Christmas council meeting, 'twas the last meeting of council before an election year. So this time next December, some of us may not be here. On to campaigning, handshaking, and photo ops galore. Is it possible for the deputy mayor to do even more? The last 3 years have certainly gone by in a flash. Indeed, it's hard to believe this poem could be my last. But all of our growth over the term was great to see. I'm told this year the mayor even did an interview with CBC. This council has certainly got a lot done. From the pool, backyard fires, and now transit, what fun. We've struggled with budgets and taxes to raise, but investing in our city can't be just for the brave. 2025 was not without its challenges, however, and some of us certainly had our fair share to weather. Social issues continue to cause residents to raise Cain, and Councillor Lafreniere sounds more like the Premier saying, just move away. But after 25 years, she can say what she wants. She's done a hell of a lot more than all the Facebook warrior taunts. A major water main break was our most recent bombardment, and we salute all of our employees in the operations department. All of the staff at the city deserve a great deal of praise. Each one works tirelessly and puts in very long days. So as we close out the year and shut off the lights, happy holidays to council, staff, and residents, and to all a good night.
Frenier?
Well, that's a hard act to follow, and I'm not going to step dance, so.
You promised.
Yeah. I just want to comment on Councillor Plummer's report from the ORCC. I had to call Hydro because my bill was extra high in October, and I have to say it was great customer service. I still don't know why it was so high, but they walked me through. I wasn't an online customer, now I am, so I can look at all my own and figure out, okay, I don't know what happened. But I just want to say he's right, that their customer service is really good there. Another question, and I don't need an answer tonight, but during budgets, we discussed the increased cost of waste, and we were questioning reserves at the waste management facility. And I'm going to put this question, and Councillor Plummer can bring it back to us in the new year. We talked about reserves for decommissioning, and I do believe they do have a healthy reserve for the decommissioning of that site. But the question of council was, do they have a reserve for a reconstruction or redevelopment of a new site? So if you could find that out, or if you know the answer tonight, it's just something we wanted to know because we need to be prepared for the future. Thank you.
I can comment on that right away. So the current facility as it sits right now is set to basically be full somewhere around 2034, between 2036. We haven't got the final estimate at the moment. So that basically is 10 years away. So what happens to the 10-year mark? It basically runs an alarm bell at the center and says, okay, what are we going to do with waste in 10 years? So right now I can say there is a plan going forward to use the current site and do an expansion, or work to have an expansion on the current site. That's a process that's going to happen. There are currently the site is operating healthy, so we have money put aside to start that process. And as the process plays out over the next few years, we will have more information coming forward. But until that time, things happen in closed doors, as we have to basically maintain our plan for the future, but not ringing any false alarms at the moment, because we don't want people get excited and things like that. So as I can say, the plant, there is a Perpetual Care Act. That's so when the existing site closes, if that's the case, or we do an expansion on the existing site, there are reserves to keep that going for its entirety. So there's nothing coming back to the taxpayer. That's already held at the Ottawa Waste Recovery Center.
So there is reserves.
Yeah, there's a lot of money set aside, because you have to maintain that site for many years after its completion.
Okay.
But I say there is already talks around the table to how do we look at the next 10 years after the site is closed. Because we know that we don't want to ship our garbage anywhere, because that's going to be very expensive to the ratepayer and the community. So that's something that Pembroke, Laurentian Valley, and Petawawa are all going to come together. That sit as well as Wilberforce as part of the as well. So they'll all work together on that board. And I hear, Pat, you're not around for the next term. I'll still be here. I plan to be here for another few. So I'll hopefully still on that board to see that new site developed, and make sure we still have a quality, very good, safe, economical way to store and dispose of our garbage.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Jacquinot?
Your Worship, I just want to acknowledge the fact that this past week that the OPP had deputized you to direct traffic at the HGTV Knights of Columbus event. And I want to thank you for being a volunteer, even with your busy schedule, and to Rick Power from the Legion. And I believe Kevin Cleach was there as well. We know how difficult it is to get volunteers and to keep them, so thank you.
Okay. With that, number 15, closed session. Councillor Keel, you have a motion to move to closed.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Lafreniere, that this meeting become a closed meeting to discuss proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of lands by the municipality as per section 239 sub 2 sub c of the Municipal Act regarding A, offer to purchase Transcan Corporate Park.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Keel and seconded by Councillor Lafreniere that this meeting become a closed meeting to discuss the proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by municipality as per section 239 2C of the Municipal Act regarding offer to purchase the Trans-Canada Corporate Park. Those in favor? That is carried. We'll now move into a closed session.